start on fire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Analytics Are for the Nerds. I'm Louis G, here with Ryan Mira. We have a huge night ahead, biggest show of the year so far. We've got 8 great guests coming on throughout the night. We're probably going to be here for a while, so strap on. And whatever, you don't have to strap. Be ready for a long show, lots of fun. We're going to all talk about hot takes, and I think it's going to be a really fun one. So hope you have a good time. Let's go.
There he is. Life-saving. How many lives saved this week, Kyle?
Just this podcast by coming on, so 3.
I take back the delicious part. Delicious.
I've already clipped that. That's already on Twitter.
That's legitimately going to be a Twitter clip today.
You know what I meant. So thank you. And some people, apparently like me, don't like almond joys, and those people are idiots.
And they give you the best deal, the greatest of deals. We need the tight end. We're big on the tight ends.
You're not saying embarrassing songs. You're saying songs that make me dry. So, like,
Let's shit on Leone. Let's shit on Leone. Everybody love shit about Leone.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus.
Right, you ready or what?
Let's go. Hot take season. You're sitting near a fire. I mean, it's so fitting. You're gonna walk through hot coals later. I mean, we don't know.
I got the Puka Chinese shirt on. We're in full season vibes right now, baby. Let's go. Let's bring our first guest right on. Bring in Jeremy from FTN. What's up, buddy? How are you? I usually say a long time no see to our guest, but you're becoming a regular, and we like it.
Hey, I appreciate it. I like coming on. It's a lot of fun, I live in the Buffalo area, so gotta help support you guys, right? I'm good, enjoying the last spurt before we hit the hoodie weather. So
you and I are both doing drafts right now. You are. I'm sorry. Ryan's currently in a draft. I'm currently in a draft, and you are. You did the responsible thing and said, "Hey guys, got to get me out of here by 9 because I'm drafting." But I booked 8 guests for a podcast, and then realized, oh yeah, I have a $300 redraft that I'm doing right now. We'll go over that.
Actually, he booked the guests so they could just run the show for him while he did his draft.
Yeah, it was like, I'll just double dip here. We'll just let everybody else talk. And
I just ask you guys' opinions the whole time. Like, who would you draft right now? Just saying, if these were the 2 guys that were available. Glad to have you. Let's get right into it because I know you got a short period of time here. One thing I want to do with everybody today is before we get into talking about football and those hot takes, what's your life hot take? Do you have a hot take outside of sports where that's is not the normal, not the someone against what most people think? What's your hot take when it comes to life? I'm putting you on the spot here. I know I didn't
you are.
This to you, but you gotta have something. You gotta hate or love something that most people don't find the same. No,
I'm pretty basic,
So
it's not normal for everybody I know, but like I really like summer. Everybody in my family loves fall. They're all like, "Yo, fall life." So I don't know, but I feel like a lot of people like summer, especially living in Buffalo. So maybe I hate the snow. But I feel like everybody in Buffalo hates the snow. So
no, listen,
I don't know.
I'm glad.
I'm real basic. Like I ain't got no hot takes in life. I just kind of coast along. Don't ruffle too many feathers.
I like it.
What were you saying, Ryan?
But no, I'm just happy. You're not like a fall slappy. You're just like the people that just can't wait for fall to get here. It's just, let's wait. Let's wait. I'm good with the warm weather. I like, wearing a t-shirt and shorts. Like it's great. So
yeah, I don't mind early fall though, like September, October. I can get a little bit of October. You know, if you can roll with like a light hoodie and shorts, I'm cool. But like, I enjoy summer. You know, I like being outside. You know.
I love this. There's nothing. There's nights that it's too hot this summer to enjoy it. Like this to me is perfect, right? Like this is by a little fire. I'm still in shorts and a t-shirt. I'm not, but I'm feeling comfortable. I'm out here. This is the perfect weather for me. All right, let's get into football a little bit. What is your big hot take on the season? You can tell me anything. It's a guy you like, a guy you hate. What is your biggest hot take for fantasy football come this year?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily my biggest. I'm never super high on like the hot take side of it. I was going to talk about Keon Coleman, but I know how Ryan does, so I'm sure you guys are going to talk about that at some point. So I'll leave that for him. But I'm going to go with Drake London isn't going to finish inside the top 24 for fantasy wide receivers. That's kind of where I'm at. I think that he's been I think he's cooled off a little bit in drafts here as we got closer to the end of the offseason, but I just think he's a guy that's seen a plethora of targets the past few seasons. He's had back-to-back seasons with over 110 targets. He's only been able to put up 800 yards in both those seasons. And yeah, we can paint that, pretty picture and give him the scapegoat of saying, yeah, terrible quarterback play. Yeah, it was Arthur Smith. Yeah, okay, maybe. But he's a guy that, again, has only had 6 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. And yes, he's had a decent amount of air yards, which was, I think he ranked 23rd according to FTN data with 1,264 last year. So he's up there, but again, he wasn't super high, ranking 23rd. I mean, you're almost into that second tier of fantasy wide receivers. And I just think that we're kind of saying, hey, Kirk Cousins coming off of an Achilles injury is all of a sudden going to be Kirk Cousins that we've seen in the past. And yes, Kirk Cousins has been good, but Kirk Cousins got really good when he got Jefferson, etc. So again, is Kirk Cousins going to really all of a sudden make Drake London a top 15 wide receiver? I just don't see that. So for me, I just really don't think that we're going to see much more than what he has been. I think he's kind of a downfield threat guy. And who knows, with Kyle Pitts there, maybe Pitts is the red zone guy. Maybe, again, we see a solid season from Drake London, which we have seen already. But it's just until he gets those touchdowns, he's just going to be a low-end wide receiver too.
Where were you 10 minutes ago when before the show Ryan talked me into drafting him in the second round?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm off the consensus. So that's why that's my hot take. Like, I just, even over at FTN, like, I think I have him ranked the lowest 100%. Like, I'm pretty far off. Let me see. When I wrote an article a few weeks ago, we had him at 15. I was at like 21 for wide receivers. So like, it's not the same. And I could be wrong. I could end up coming back on your show and, 5 months from now and be like, yep, I was an idiot. My apologies.
I mean, to make the argument against that, I would say, I kind of look at Drake London somewhat similarly to Garrett Wilson. I mean, they were drafted, almost the same, draft spot, and they were in similar situations for a while. Garrett Wilson, I mean, obviously playing with some of the worst quarterback play as with Drake London. And I just think that now that we have a clear-cut number one in both of those offenses and at least an upgrade, we'll say, either with Kirk Cousins or Penix, in Atlanta, and with Rodgers hopefully being mostly healthy, I think they're just going to get enough targets because they are the number one on that offense. And there aren't really a ton of other options around them other than, if I guess we'll see if Pitts is healthy. I think it's starting to scare me with the soft tissue now. And so we'll see. But again, I think he is going to take a step. It'll be interesting to see. And the story will come down to whether or not the step was big enough, right, to justify the ADP, because now he's being drafted so early in both best ball and redraft leagues.
And I think that's the struggle is like 1,100 yards, 100 catches, and say 4 touchdowns. Like, he's still just a wide receiver 24. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's Chris Olave. Like Chris Olave is still, again, another guy that isn't cresting the top 20. Like he needs to get the touchdowns. And what worries me is that red zone, you've got Tyler Algier, who they're already saying, hey, we're going to use him a lot. We're going to lean on him at times. You've got Bijan, you've got Pitts, like in the red zone. What's the direction? Obviously, London's a mismatch. It's just going to come down to, I guess, do they use him that way? And maybe it is just Arthur Smith being galaxy braining everything, which makes me worried for George Pickens. But like, I just don't see, like you said, Ryan, like the jump's going to be enough for me to justify. Like they're taking them second, third round sometimes. Like I think there's guys I like around him a lot better. So that's where I was kind of just fading him.
And with those three guys, like someone's not going to hit, right? Like someone's not going to hit that ADP because they're just all going too high to all pay off that ADP. So there's going to be one of them that doesn't hit that. Excuse me, that tier of wide receivers does feel really flat. So I can see either way of him going the front of it to the back of it. But no, I don't think that's crazy to call a hot take because there are people that are really high on him. And I kind of like your plan on that. All right. Before we let you out of here, we're going to do one other thing where I have a few different games. I can give you an option of which one you could play, or I can just pick a random one. You tell me what you want me to do. You want me to pick a random one, or you want me to give you an option of what we're doing?
Hit me with some random ones. I like surprises. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
Then I can blame it on being surprised.
Well, then let's do our first hot take Jeopardy. And boop, 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 boop. Sorry, that's me doing music because I don't have it. All right, we see it. Here are the
Why did you not go to the Jeopardy theme music there? You just did like a random like.
I didn't want to get trademarked.
Right.
All right. So here are our categories. Our categories are old ass running backs. Those are running backs over 28 or older. She Hate Me, which are questions about either Tyreek Hill or Jerry Judy. Super Bowel. It's a question about Lamar Jackson. Flint, Michigan is a question about a muddied, watered backfield, and Return of the Mac, question about comeback player of the year. You pick whichever category you'd like.
I will go with old ass running backs.
Old ass running backs. There's only one.
It's just one, right?
This old ass running back, 28 or older, will have more fantasy points than them other old ass running backs. Who's the answer? Who's your answer?
It's gotta be Derrick Henry, but Alvin Kamara's gotta be close. I can't remember. Is he 28?
Yeah, I think Kamara's 28.
I think he is.
You're gonna go
I think
with
it's Henry, probably.
Gonna go with
That's
Henry.
my guess.
All right. Let's reveal the
maybe
correct
CMC.
answer.
So doesn't CMC 28? I don't remember.
No,
we'll go with Henry.
Who is all of them? Because it's the year of old ass running backs, Jeremy. And so I think I have never found myself clicking on the Henrys and the Kamaras, and they all feel like good values this year. I don't know if it's right. Like I don't know. I think because it's gone so bad the other way, where so many people are like, "Oh, 28's the cliff," and that's kind of everyone's feelings. So now they're becoming values. Derrick Henry feels like he should have been creeping up all year, and he's just kind of stayed at this value where it's almost been impossible for me not to click him every single time he's there, because he's gonna eat touchdowns there, right?
Like I did my rankings for this week and I did the projections and everything. Like my week 1 projection, like he was like running back 5, and like it's so much higher than everybody else. And I'm kind of like, what I do wrong? But I'm like, I didn't give him a crazy stat line, but just like, we have to remember, like Gus Edwards had 13 rushing touchdowns last year. Like if Henry stays healthy, he's not going to need the workload to be super viable at running back. And then, like you said, like Alvin Kamara is going to be the target hog that he was and has been for years. Like he was uncontrollable last year as far as just the check downs and the easy point. Yeah, he's not efficient. Cool. Yeah, it's not great for football, but like Derek Carr's just going to check it down to him. He's going to eat in any type of half PPR or PPR, you know, like I think CMC's 28. I could be wrong, but like CMC, you know, like I feel like the issue is I actually just talked about it on the episode today at the Dynasty podcast for FTN was like, yes, there's age cliffs, but we also have to remember who the age cliffs pertain to almost. Like 28's an age cliff to running backs unless you're Derrick Henry or your Alvin Kamara or your these elite type of talents like Bijan when he gets there, CMC, like Breece Hall. Like these guys tend to not really fall off as quickly. Look at the receivers. 30's always been the mark. Devontae Adams has had his run. You know, DeAndre Hopkins is doing things. We're going to see with Diggs this year. Like these guys that are kind of proven to be pretty elite type level talent tend to break those age cliffs for a few years. And like you said, like even Joe Mixon this year is super good value if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I'm like up and down on that. Any questions for us before we let you go, Jer?
No, I'm good.
No, Ryan, any closing thoughts for Jeremy?
No, I thought that was great. Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought it was well done.
I'm sorry, you were going to say something, Jeremy.
I was going to say thanks for having me on. I had fun.
Always a pleasure to have you. Yeah,
just don't catch on fire. You know, I don't want. I want like a DM tomorrow. Yeah, Lou caught on fire.
That
crazy. Watch the video. You know.
It will be great because it'll be live. And Brian will keep it running. Jared, thanks so much. Go enjoy your draft. Have a good draft tonight. Have a good rest of your couple days of drafting, and good luck this season. And we'll have you on sometime in the season for sure.
For sure. Go Bills. Can't lose week one. We got it.
Can't lose week one. Go Bills.
It's too important of a game.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right. We're off and running. First guest done and out of the way. We're going to bring our second one right away. Friend of the show, former host of In the Hunt. Look at that. Sean Murphy, very funny comedian. You may have seen him in as an extra in some TV shows. When I was thinking about that today, joking around about bringing you on like that, I really want to know. I don't know if we've ever talked about this. What has been your favorite extra role you've ever done for TV?
I'd have to think on it. I was a cult member in The Blacklist. I was blink and you miss it in The Irishman. Only goddamn Potato Head on that entire cast list. You know what I'm saying? And what else? There's a couple fun things.
You've been in some fun stuff. Irishman. How was dinner at De Niro's? Did you?
I didn't see De Niro, unfortunately. I only very briefly saw Scorsese. I worked in a laundromat they were casing, and it was nice.
My question is, has anyone ever recognized you from an extra spot? And
the only one was
does that disturb you? Does that
no? The only it would in the aforementioned Blacklist one. I was very recognizable, and I had people text me but that's the only one because everything else, like, I have trouble seeing me because it's like very, like, you know, I'm like in a crowd.
Sure.
Yeah. But now, I don't think you were in right off the bat for Jeremy. Is this one thing before we start talking about any?
Well, I'd like to talk about the fire. I'm sure it's been talked about, but like, what is the situation? Like, it seems like it's just
too close.
Yeah, I can't get the geography right. Am I like? Oh, okay.
Yeah, just a little fire pit next to me. I'm enjoying sitting outside.
And you're out. Oh, I see. You're outside. Yeah. It looks like you're inside.
Oh, yeah. I didn't start a fire inside my house, Sean.
Well, if anyone would, it would be you.
Honestly, I think I'm more offended that you like 100% were like, I need to ask him this for his safety.
Well, like the chair behind you looks too comfortable to be an outside chair. Isn't that a window behind you? I can't.
Is, but it's the outside window, Sean. There's windows outside of houses.
No, he hasn't.
It doesn't look like that. It looks like.
So, I know this is crazy, but windows go both ways, bro.
No, the fire department shows up and he's like, "Listen, I have a friend who's in the fire department, so he told me I could do this."
I just think you have the nicest outdoor spread I've ever seen in my life.
Well, thank you. You're more than welcome to come sit next to me your next time in Buffalo, and you come hang out, and we'll sit by a fire.
I mean, I'm gonna pass, but I appreciate that.
It's the only way I can have Kyle ever come over. I need to start something on fire nowadays, so Kyle comes and hang out with me. All right, I asked him, and I'm going to ask all of our guests today, before we talk about any kind of sports, whatever. What is your hot take in life? What's your biggest hot take, just that's different from the realm? Just in everyday life.
God, I have so many. It's tough to narrow it down. I mean, this is like maybe a hack Buffalo one, but I do think ranch is gross. But not just for chicken wings. I think it's universally gross. I think there's no reason anyone should use ranch for any reason. And let me tell you why. Because, of course, you have blue cheese. But even if you don't want to go stinky, you have Caesar. And I think both of those are superior than ranch.
You are preaching to the choir, brother. I am with you on that 100%. That's one of the strongest points that will be made today on this podcast, I think. Okay. So I'm with you on that.
Okay, let me think of a spicier one. What do I got that's like, I'm sure I'll think of it maybe as we're wrapping up. I'm trying to think of things that just annoy me.
Yeah, you have plenty of those. I know.
Yeah, like, you know what? Too much. I mean, I live in New York City, so this is maybe more germane to me, but too much. People make too much noise in public. You know, like it's very much like if you're talking on the phone in public, you should be moving. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I don't hate someone listening to their music loud, because the car is in motion. So like, even if it goes by you, it's like, well, that annoyed me for 2 seconds. That's not the end of the world. But like, you can't be making a phone call on the bus. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be listening to stuff without headphones. All of this, I think, is a societal collapse that we're in the middle of.
My mom will, she's old or whatever. My mom will answer on speakerphone and walk through a supermarket.
That's crazy.
Just talk to, and I'm usually swearing at her, so it's even got to be more embarrassing for her.
Although at least she is old. She has an old excuse. What is with the people? Did I miss the memo that like cell phones definitely give you cancer? Because no one does this anymore. Everyone does this. Why? When did that become a thing? Why is that like a socially acceptable thing to talk like this?
It's so funny, but that really has become a thing. I think that's what it is. I think people are worried about the ear cancer.
But is that like a proven thing? Did I miss the memo on that? Like, why is this is okay? This isn't close enough to your goddamn brain? Like, that's the difference?
There's a guy that goes to my coffee shop daily who I really like. I try to like kind of pick up whatever cues I can from his conversations. And, I see him 4 days a week having loud conversations and for months, and I still don't know what he does. And he's just kind of like, he does a lot of like swearing and, he's 4'10" and he like tries to sound like a big boss and cool and whatever, and he just will walk around the coffee shop holding the phone like that, saying, I told him not to fucking do that, but that's what's wrong with this generation. And he's like 28, and I want to punch him in his face, so bad.
I don't have the balls to do this, but I think we should all, as a society, start jumping into those people. Like, you want me to hear the conversation? Okay. Hey, man. Yeah. What do you? I agree with that. Yeah. Like you want me to hear it? Well, then I will participate in that.
That's really funny.
That's the way we got to get these people to stop doing that. Also, I'll segue to this. I don't know if you guys are a big go to a movie person. I mean, if you're Lou, you got a fireplace indoors. Why would you ever go to a movie? But I go to a lot of movies. Listen, we're all addicted to our phones. You want to do a phone check? Allowed. I'm not a crazy person. You do a phone check, babysitters, everything okay. But the people that will scroll, like movies cost $85, and I'll see someone in front of me hold up their phone and just scroll, like watch Instagram stories, and I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind?
I go to a lot of movies, and I 100% agree with you. It's like, what are you doing?
I will. That's the only time in my life I'll kind of have balls, because I know I'm 100% in the right. So I will go to people. It's like once every 4 movies, I'll go to be like, hey man, can you put that down? And 95% of the time they're so embarrassed because they realize they're addicted to their phones. Like they don't even realize they're doing it.
Yeah, it is. It's an embarrassing thing. Okay, well, we've done 12 minutes on life. Why don't we talk a little sport? We only talk a little sports on this podcast anyways, it doesn't matter. But why don't we I want to know, it doesn't have to be fantasy specific, but what's your big football hot take this year? What do you got one about a player?
Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl again. This is when they do it, when no one thinks they can. This is when it would hurt the most. Everyone's like, they're going to go 0-16, and then what happens?
Which quarterback does it?
A tag team. Both of them do it. I think
Joe Milton.
I think Brissett goes 10-0. And we go, and then he gets hurt, and we go, thank Christ. And then Drake May comes in, and he leads them the rest of the way.
And he's better.
Yeah.
He's somehow better. Oh my God! Please don't try and I will use it as a quick segue to because I'm not going to have many opportunities to talk about my hot takes. But as I know, Ryan knows this. Like Jalen Polk on that team, if you're looking for anybody, if you got any last second drafts there, Sean, Jalen Polk, their top wide receiver, I think is going to be really, really good. And he's someone that I've targeted quite a bit. Brissett, May, the rest of the team, not too high on, but no, go. What's your real hot take? You got
here's a medium take that everyone's a little down on the Bills this year, the soft rebuild, as they say. You look at the AFC and you go, well, there's only like 8 teams that can make the playoffs. I know that's wrong. I'm sure someone will be good that we're not expecting, but the good teams are really good, but the middle class in the AFC stinks. Whereas the NFC has a bunch of teams that I feel like they're going to be fighting until the last week, but who are you? You have your top 7 or let's go through Ravens, Chiefs, Texans, Bills. And then you say Bengals, Jaguars, Dolphins, and then you have Jets. So we're at 8 of 7. Who else are you concerned about? Like the Browns and Deshaun Watson, like the Broncos, like there's 8 teams and one of them is going to have a QB injury. So there's going to be 7 teams, and those 7 teams are going to make the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, you have Josh Allen and you have a shot. Isn't that the optimistic look of the Bills season?
Go ahead, Ryan. You answer. You talk. You haven't talked.
I mean, I don't know. I think they're going to be all right. I think that there's just a bit of overreaction on what it means to lose the receivers, and so I think when you look around the rest of the league, I am a little bit worried that a team like the Browns could be like the Titans from a couple of years ago, where they don't really have a good offense per se, but their defense is so good that they annoyingly have 10 wins. You look up in December and they're one of the contending teams for the first seed.
Yeah, but at least the Titans that year, their division was dog shit, whereas at least the Browns have to play the Bengals twice, the Ravens twice. I mean, the Steelers are always frisky, even though I think they're going to be dog shit this year. But I just, there's no, I guess the Chargers can be okay. Like we said, the Browns could be okay. But even with the Bills with a tough schedule, if you get 9 wins, I think you're probably in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that they have to still be considered when I know they're not. I know that the Jets have just moved into to actually be the betting favorite to win the division, but it's only slight. I don't know if I want to believe the articles and the talk about there being disarray in New York over Rodgers and stuff. I don't care if the guy's an asshole or if there's disarray or if there's whatever. If he is 80% of Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be good. If he's not, they're not. It's just as simple as that. I just don't know what kind of confidence I have in him recovering from that kind of injury at his age.
Yeah, same. I'm very. I mean, we'll know in what 5 days.
Yeah.
But like, this because the Jets fans will tell you like, hey man, if we just have an average quarterback, we're going to be fine. But and then like that feels like such a Bills argument. I feel like we all made that argument for 20 years of like, hey man, if the O-line just gets a little better and we run the ball, like it just feels like even if Rodgers is a 5 out of 10, maybe they squeak into the playoffs, but that's not like a real team, you know?
No, I totally agree with that.
I still think I'm more worried about the Jets than the Dolphins. I think if you said, who do you think is going to give you more of a problem this year? I thought that going into last year, thinking that Rodgers was going to be healthy, and that game kind of was playing out that way. I mean, right? I mean, they lost that game. They didn't look good. And I mean, if Rodgers was in and he plays more of that season, who knows what happens? It's tough to say, but they scare me more than the Dolphins, just because I think the Dolphins are paper tigers when it comes down to like crunch time, when the season is late and it's getting into the playoffs and the weather gets bad, it seems like they kind of just fold. And
well, it helps that we own the Dolphins. Like McDermott has like 2 losses against the Dolphins. It's crazy. So that I think, who knows how far that goes for, but that does make me feel more confident against the Dolphins than because we lose to the Jets, I feel like once a year, regardless of who their quarterback is.
Now, Sean, I have 4 games where I'm using today, asking one question from each game for each guest, or not each guest gets, you know what I mean. I'm going to pick one question out of the 4 games for each guest. Okay. Do you want to pick the game? Do you want me to pick the game?
You pick it.
You pick the game. I really want to do this. So now this one is going to be fun. So this was Ryan's idea, and now you're stuck with it. We have a wheel.
Okay.
And on that wheel, there are 6 names.
Okay.
All right. So that is going to be the player that you're going to explain your hot take about. So we are going to spin that wheel first, but there is a second part of this, but let's first get the player down. We'll see who you got.
Ooh, Sam Darnold.
I love that.
Okay.
I love that you got Sam Darnold there, and we'll ask why. But now, this is whose voice you have to do while explaining your hot take. We have Christopher Walken, Trump, De Niro, Bill Belichick, Rocky Balboa, or your mom. And
good news is I can't do impressions, so they're all going to sound like
Trump.
I don't even know if I could, because it's just always like it's a hand, like like the hand thing is big, and then
do you want me to give you a respin?
No, I mean, I just can't do any of these. So let me think. Well, let me give you the Darnold impression, then I'll try and do a Trump after that.
Well, you need to give me your hot take about Sam Darnold.
Okay.
Using the Trump voice.
Okay. Man, I just can't. Let me see if let me talk through the Trump. Like, it's one of those things you've seen 1,000 people. You're like, I must be able to do that, and you're like, no, I guess I can't. You're like, he's beautiful. He says, what is the best cue? You like, see, I can't.
No, I think one that's good. Okay, you can just give me your hot take on Sam Darnold without doing the Trump voice if you'd like. But I
can't really. Yeah,
but do it like an ass.
A lot of people are saying one of the best quarter. It's too. I can't do any impressions, so it's just like.
Do you have a take on Sam Darnold? Do you think he can?
I mean, because I'm such a Bills homer, I would like him to be bad, so that second round pick is high. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be completely middling. I mean, the Vikings were fine for half the year that Cousins wasn't in there, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Not that I watched many of their games, but I don't know. He'll be fine. I think that team will get somewhere between 7 and 9 wins. And
I've kind of run a shtick on the show, the show that I really do think he's going to kind of reinvigorate his career a little bit here. Now, I want to be careful of saying that I think that means a lot of fantasy success, because I don't. He's very limited with upside fantasy. He doesn't run, but I do think he's going to be able to keep that team winning games. And I would not be shocked if it just works for him. I mean, he really has had a couple bad looks at opportunities. I think I'm not saying this is going to be the one, but I mean,
but you can make this argument: probably toughest division in football. I mean, he has to play the Bears, the Packers, and the Lions.
That's another really good point. I mean, because it's going to be, I don't know if there's one dominant. I don't know if I feel like Detroit's as dominant as some people think, but I think all 4 teams are going, or at least the 3 teams outside Minnesota are going to all be. I mean, Chicago should be much improved, and I do still like Detroit, and the Packers are. I didn't. Excuse the pun. I didn't love. I just, he came. I don't want to say out of nowhere. We all knew what he had, but I want to see one more year of it before. I know, and from a fantasy aspect, with the 4 wide receivers, that's been like the offseason's like one of the toughest decisions in the offseason for his fantasy experts is, which one of those guys is going to stand out, because they're not all going to be able to, have great numbers between the top 4 wide receivers there. So I think a couple of those guys are going to be bust, a couple of guys are going to be good, and trying to figure that out has been really, really tough. But, well, thanks for trying to do it, Trump. It was good. Of course, though, you'd get the worst one right off the bat. But you were adventurous. You said pick what I wanted, and I picked the fun game. But we are going to let you go because we have another guest waiting. Thanks for joining us tonight.
When you introduce the next guest, do it in your Trump impression.
I will.
Turnabout is fair play, so I look forward to hearing that.
Sean, thanks so much, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Of course. Hey, you want to promo? Give them your Twitter.
I have a special on YouTube. It's called Neil. Go watch that, and I think that's it. I think that's all I got.
Well, thank you again for joining us. And I'm sure I've told you this to your face, but I will tell it to you now in front of everybody that's watching. Such a great special, and definitely worth the watch. And you're one of the funniest guys I know. Great presence on social media with your dumb crowd work.
Don't say it's crowd work. It's when people say stuff, I do crowd work. I'm not a Matt Rife up here. Don't tell the people that.
A regular Matt Rife. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being there. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. Well, we are off to a really great start with Sean there, and I'm glad he picked the game though. That was fun that he picked that game, or let me.
I'm glad he did it. I just cannot figure out how somehow Sam Darnold has had his own segment on this show for like the past 6 weeks. So
it's legit. It's like Puka last year all over again. Sam Darnold's going to be the most until he's benched in week 4, and then I have to erase everything I've said about him all season because people will be coming at me. All right, we got our next guest to come on in. Bills writer for New York Upstate, Syracuse.com. He's got his own podcast for the Bills, co-host Shout, right?
Yeah.
The podcast. Give up everybody. Ryan Talbot's here. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, me and Ryan have been talking about all year trying to get you on for an episode. And then we had this idea of Hot Take Central. So we thought this would be a great time for you to come have a few good minutes with us, and then if you hate us, you're not stuck for an hour. So, well, it's just easing you in. We're an acquired taste.
Hey, that's all right. I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome.
Right. Yeah,
awesome.
we are mutuals on Twitter, but it's nice to meet you virtually here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Ryan, the one thing we've done with each guest so far is, before we gotten into too much sports or anything talk, is this is a hot take episode. Do you have a hot take on life? Is there a hot take, any kind of thing that you're out on that most people love, hate, and you're different? What's your hot take in life?
It was more of a sports hot take, and I posted it recently. I said you can't claim any kind of championship win if you weren't alive to see it. So, like Jets fans, Dolphins fans claiming all the Super Bowls to Bills fans, unless you were there to see those, you can't claim that. You can't go back. I mean, you can go back and watch it on DVD, but it's not the same. So that's my biggest hot take in terms of at least sports.
And I totally agree that. And why would you want it? Like,
Right.
why would you want to do it? I'm a Mets, Bills, and Sabres fan. So, I haven't, but I was 4 years old in '86, and I can't claim that. I can't claim that Mets World Series. So as far as I'm concerned, I've never seen one of my teams win a championship. And somehow the Mets with ragdoll rotation right now, maybe this is the year. Maybe they're the ones.
I wouldn't mind that for all my friends that are Mets fans. I have quite a few, and I know what they've gone through over the years. So I wouldn't be terribly opposed to that.
All right, who's your team?
I'm not as big into baseball anymore as I used to be. I used to watch the Yankees on WPIX growing up, so that was my team to watch. I mean, I watched some pretty terrible teams growing up before the Jeter teams came along and the championship teams. Pat Kelly, Roberto Kelly. I mean, they did have Mattingly on the team. That was good. Brian Taylor was like the first overall pick. He got in a bar fight, never pitched in the majors. They were just kind of a circus at that point. And there's a really good series on Peacock about that team and just the mayhem that surrounded them. So, eventually I did get to see quite a few World Series with that great core that they had. But nowadays, just like a lot of sports, it's hard to get Yankees games unless you have one of those few cable companies that have the Yes Network, which seems like it's fewer and fewer.
Sure. Where was I? Oh, so you cover the Bills, obviously. Let's start with them specifically. Why don't you give me like one guy you might think that is higher, you're higher on than the consensus, and maybe one guy that you think is lower on, and specifically the offensive the offensive playmakers. But if you do have somebody else in mind that you're thinking about, let us know.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think you just mean in general, but in fantasy football, I've been grabbing Khalil Shakir late in every draft with one of my last picks. The fact that he's still there, I think he's going to have a massive target share this year. So for fantasy football, besides obviously Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid, he's that one guy I've been trying to pluck very late in the draft, for those guys are going very high. In terms of the overall offense, Curtis Samuel's going to have a monster year if he stays healthy this year. Knows the system. I was very high on him before he even came to the Bills. Never has played with a good quarterback. You look at early in his career, I mean, the year that he had 1,000 total yards in Carolina under Joe Brady was with Teddy Bridgewater as his quarterback. And if he can get 800 yards receiving, 200 plus yards, around 200 yards rushing in a system with that type of quarterback play, I think that the way the Bills are going to utilize him this year with Josh Allen is going to make him that much more dangerous of a weapon. He's on pace to play in week 1. He was dealing with some turf toe injury the last few weeks of the summer, but full participant today. The way the Bills can use him in terms of lining him up as a traditional receiver, putting him in the backfield, using him as a gadget guy. There's no shortage of ways to keep defenses off balance. And I think that's going to be Curtis Samuel's, one of his biggest roles this season. You can put him in motion pre-snap, see what get an idea of what the opposing defense is doing on a given play. There's a lot that he unlocks for this offense. So, I think that he is someone that's being slept on for the Bills.
I think that's a great point. And I think actually how Curtis Samuel's used is going to be a really good barometer as to how inventive Joe Brady is as an offensive coordinator, right? I want to see early in the season him being used all in these different ways, like we were sort of promised, right? That, you know, he's going to be used like he was back in those early years in Carolina, and he's going to unlock this aspect of the offense that hasn't been utilized, you know. But we've heard those types of things before, right? Every fall we hear stories about running backs lining up in the slot and they're going to catch passes. And, you know, this year HN actually might do it, but well, that's another story. But I really want to see if Brady is going to be inventive, because to keep up with the other teams in the AFC, I still think that it's going to come down to this offense. If they can match punch for punch with some of these other teams with a less than sure thing and on the defensive side of the ball this year.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the carries he had in Carolina, it came after Christian McCaffrey was hurt in that season, and that they needed someone to kind of utilize back there, and he played obviously running back at Ohio State. You know, with the Bills though, I would love to see them come out with no running back in the backfield. Looks like it's going to be four receivers, whatever, with tight ends, and then line them up in the backfield and really throw these defenses off, get him moving, make them think. Because everything I saw of him this summer, he is so natural in terms of the short area quickness. Those passes that they seemed to be giving to Stephon Diggs last year, those quick passes where it just wasn't Diggs's game. That is Curtis Samuel's bread and butter. He gets the ball in his hands and he just goes. He finds the lane. He creates those plays. Great with the yards after the catch. I really do think that Brady will have certain packages for him. There's going to be games where he is utilized, obviously more than others, because their motto right now is everybody eats is going to be, I think all season long, Dalton Kincaid's going to have a massive role in this offense. Khalil Shakir earned the trust of Josh Allen over the course of last season. Really worked on his game with Eric Moulds to go to that next level this offseason in terms of being a guy that you can line up inside, outside, play all over the place. Worked on that yard after the catch aspect of his game, building up some strength. We saw, you know, a little bit of that in that Pittsburgh playoff game where he caught the ball, looked like he should have been taken down, and kept his feet, kept his balance, and scored a touchdown. So he's a guy that I really like too. I temper my expectations on Keon Coleman, not just because of any athletic testing or anything like that. A lot of the times these rookie wide receivers come into the league and they get off to slow starts. And as the year goes on, I expect his role to grow. I expect him to out-snap. You know, Mac Hollins right now is listed ahead of him on the depth chart, for instance. Maybe the first few weeks, Hollins kind of out-snaps him by a few. But by week 4, week 5, I do want to see that flip. Get him a little bit more involved. But with so many guys, you have a healthy Dawson Knox, James Cook, Ray Davis was well ahead of the curve. And that probably has to do with his age. He was one of the oldest running backs in the draft class, but he can block, he can catch, he can run inside, outside. And then even Ty Johnson. I mean, we're going way down the list, but they have guys that can check all the boxes in the backfield at receiver. There's no big name, so to speak, at wide receiver anymore with Diggs gone, but I think they're going to surprise some teams in terms of how efficiently they move the ball.
I love everything that you said there, and I can't. I mean, I would say it the same exact way. I mean, that's kind of you've kind of echoed the same thoughts I've echoed on this podcast all summer long, and it's Ryan's a little bit higher on Keon than the two of us, but that's because he loves the prospect and not so much. And again, neither of us, I don't think, are saying that he can't turn into that. I think McDermott gets improperly blamed for. Sometimes people just have this assumption because he's a little old school that he brings in rookies, you know, too slow. But I really don't think that's been. I mean, you've seen some rookies come in and have really, especially on the defensive side, his side, you know, some pretty big roles right off the bat. I'm not so much worried about the fact that it is a rookie. I'm worried about, especially when it comes to a fantasy sense, is how much, like you said, there's no dominant guy in a regular lineup league outside of Shakir and Kincaid, for sure. Kincaid's gonna be the number one guy. And I've been, you know, Shakir was the number 3 of those 3 guys getting drafted, but he was always the one I was wanting to draft the most. Is those 2 guys are going to have consistent roles where you in a lineup league, you can feel like you're good putting them in your lineup. when it comes to Cook, Samuel, Ray Davis, and even Keon, is I think they're better suited for like a best ball lineup because they are going to have those pop games and they're going to have those big games because I do think they're going to spread the ball around. But I don't know if I want to guess on when that game is going to be that Samuel is going to score 2 touchdowns and have he's going to have 4 catches, 55 yards and 2 touchdowns because he had a couple rushes by the end zone or something. Who is I've kind of my alpha case for Samuel is that he might end up being the guy that gets some carries around the goal line. I've wanted the last 2 years that the words out of McDermott's mouth has been they don't want Allen to do it as much. Right. And that hasn't really happened. It keeps on happening because they haven't found somebody to really kind of take that role. Do you have somebody that you think is going to be the leader in that role? I don't see them giving that to Cook.
Cook's had some bad drops around the goal line, and he's not necessarily built to be that goal line back. Not to say the Bills won't go to him. They did the same thing for many years with Devin Singletary, where they didn't want Singletary to run near the goal line. They were giving Zach Moss opportunities, some Chris Ivory's of the world before that, bigger backs. And eventually they turned to Singletary, and he actually had some success in doing that. So, Cook could end up getting some. But if I were to pick one back, I think it's going to be Ray Davis, the way he's built, the way that he's shown reliable hands all summer. More of that physical between the tackles frame, but he can also go to the outside. I think he gives you the most there. Tough to depend on that in a fantasy aspect, but he's that guy I think could definitely poach some of those touchdowns throughout the season. So, especially if it's a dynasty league, if you can get your hands on Ray Davis in leagues like that, if he's on a waiver wire in a traditional league, keep an eye on that because obviously those goal line touchdowns, if they pile up, can be pretty valuable for your fantasy lineups when more and more injuries take place over the course of the year. But, like you said, if you're talking about those year-long lineups where you're not adjusting anything, even, the best ball, you have to pick and choose those based on matchups, based on opposing run defenses, and that makes it a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I've had a hard time. I've kind of gone back and forth in this offseason on Cook. Last year he was – a couple touchdowns away from if he makes those catches around the goal line. I mean, he's the RB 4 or 5 overall, and he's being drafted probably in the second round in fantasy drafts, but he didn't catch those. And I think the bigger concern to me is that the Bills have shown kind of maybe I think potentially a lack of faith in him, right? I mean, they benched him right after the fumble. They've shown to do that in the past as kind of a learning as a to a teaching moment, but I just think that they've shown a desire to maybe have someone else involved, and because Ray Davis does give them an element with the pass catching that I don't think they have in Cook, I think it's just going to take some of the volume away from Cook, and he's just not going to deliver on the price tag. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think Cook is in line to have a lot of carries. He's still going to have some big runs. The touchdowns are a concern for me. Even this summer at training camp, he would get open. Josh Allen would throw a ball, hit it right off the hands. A lot of brutal drops this summer around the goal line, kind of, deja vu in terms of what Bills fans were expecting to see. A lot of groans from the fans at St. John Fisher University when that happened. And eventually Sean McDermott will kind of, and he'll talk with Joe Brady, obviously, and they'll say, is this who we want around the goal line? Should we be giving these other backs looks? Should we be getting creative maybe with a Curtis Samuel as well? I mean, they could throw that in there from time to time. I wouldn't be shocked if Ray Davis took a lot of that goal line work sooner rather than later.
I'm kind of making that bet, and where Cook's going kind of in the 4th round here is just a little bit too much for a guy that I see really kind of only doing his work in between the 20s, and so that's a little bit worrisome for me because I was kind of hoping that Brady would have brought an offense where he would at least talk to McDermott about trusting Cook, about give him the opportunity. We haven't seen him even be able to get the opportunity. I'm sure he's getting it in practices. You're there. You're at training camp. I'm sure if he's getting those opportunities. but I'm just surprised he hasn't gotten them in the game. So I think Ray Davis at his value and round 15 is much better than what you're getting for Cook at round 14. Before we let you go, I know I promised you a short segment. Would you want to play a quick round of one question at a hot take Jeopardy?
Sure.
All right. So this is what we got. We got She Hate Me. That is either a question about Tyreek Hill or Jerry Jeudy. Super Bowel, that is a question about Lamar Jackson. Flint, Michigan, a question about muddied, watered backfields. And Return to the Mac, a question about the Comeback Player of the Year award.
Oh boy.
You pick.
Let's do Flint, Michigan for 500.
All right. This is the easiest backfield with muddy waters to figure out, and here is why. What is your answer to that? Because there's definitely some backfields around the league that are tough to kind of figure out. Which one do you think you have all figured out and know what you got?
Man, oh man! Like, is this like you have an answer in mind for this, or are you just
there's definitely an answer there, but just because it's my answer isn't right. But I'm more trying to get your answer of what you think. There's some ideas, or the Chargers have one, the Denver's a mess. I mean, there really is 5 or 6.
There are. I was thinking Denver in my head with Williams, but. Man, this one has me thinking, because now I want to like really sit down and look at all of this. And one backfield I absolutely hate is like Dallas's right now, but that's not. So I obviously don't have that one figured out. I guess I would go with Denver. I still believe in Williams there. I think that's probably my answer for that one. But what do you guys think of this one? Because I'm glad I picked it, but I really didn't have a great answer right off the top of my head.
I have an answer that is something that Louis definitely does not agree with.
Okay.
So my answer is the Cincinnati backfield. And I think that this is a Chase Brown-led backfield. And here's why. So Zach Moss, if you go back and look at his historic run that earned him this contract with Indianapolis, his efficiency numbers were actually average to below average from those big games. The Colts line is amazing. Right. And I think running back is so dependent on the line and the holes that are open in front of you and the way that the run game is designed. So I'm just not looking at him as being, I'm not looking at Zach Moss as being some world beater to Chase Brown, who, if you compare, actually did have a really good rushing profile in college, handled a 3-down workload, and has been earning the praise of the coaches all summer. So I think if we're connecting the dots, I think the answer early in the offseason was definitely up in the air, and the money that they gave Zach Moss certainly was, raised some eyebrows. I just think all of the signs point to Chase Brown being the 1A to Zach Moss's 1B.
I've thought of that backfield a few times in fantasy football. I have taken Brown in a league, but he was, again, later in the draft. I'm not sure which way that's going to go. I have seen some talk there about that, though. So I'm interested to at least watch how that unfolds this season. Who did you have for this one?
Let's see, because I probably put my answer in here. I don't remember. This was earlier today. This is it. Okay. Who is Chargers and J.K. Dobbins? Because if you answered anything different at no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought, everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. Yes, I have been big on J.K. Dobbins all year long, all off season in that backfield. It has been it's made me feel even better since the Vegas odds have come out. Me and Ryan talked about this last week. J.K. Dobbins in that game this week is the number 1 anytime touchdown guy plus 160. He's got the best odds with it on a team where Gus Edwards is plus 250. He's plus 160. That does not make sense. One thing I've learned when Vegas doesn't make sense, bet with Vegas, because they usually know more than we do, right? So something about this game script or about how they expect to use Dobbins early in the season is out there, and I couldn't believe that was the numbers. And I'm not talking about that's the numbers between I think who are they playing, LA, right? Or I'm sorry, Vegas, right? But I mean it's Adams. He is the number one best odds to score a touchdown. So I think Dobbins is definitely going to have the first opportunity to win that. I think he has the talent to win it. Obviously the injury and stamina will be the most important thing going forward. But yeah, I've been kind of big on Dobbins all off season. I'm glad that Vegas is backing me up here, and I guess we'll see week 1 on what happens.
I will say in a dynasty league I'm in, I took Vidal pretty late in that rookie draft, so I'm maybe if injuries pop up this year, next year he'll have a chance to shine. It's one of those things where the traditional draft, it's after that you're just kind of hoping on some of these guys because I don't usually have a first round pick. I'm usually that guy that trades it in season. So, making those late round picks and hoping on a prayer.
Listen, Ryan, you're talking about if injuries happen. When we're talking about J.K. Dobbins here. All right, this guy is held up. He's like popsicle sticks with like Elmer's glue and duct tape around his knees. Like, come on.
And it's I mean, and I like Vidal a lot too. And again, depending on the format, Gus is safe as well. To me, if Vegas is right here in week 1, and for whatever reason that's Gus isn't going to get the goal line work if he's at 260 for an anytime touchdown, where is his role then?
Right.
Then it's because then he doesn't. That would have been where he would have scored those safe points for you, and so I've been avoiding him. I think Dobbins has something, and then I think Vidal is the guy that, again, because he's the unknown, that with injuries could come in and be like, oh, this guy is just the 20 carry workhorse, and that's why
my dynasty team hopes so.
Well, Ryan, we really appreciate you. I know we probably kept you a couple minutes longer than I promised you, but I appreciate you coming on. We would love to have you on again in the future, but thanks for coming on tonight and discussing some hot takes with us, and go Bills and have a great night.
Hey, thanks guys. Yeah, I look forward to doing this again sometime soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ryan. All right. Bye. I mean, I'm kind of staying on schedule here. 7 minutes.
You're doing great. Yeah, we're right along.
7 minutes. Really, I mean, our next guest is probably not so happy about 7 minutes, but part of it was his internet connection. He was texting me.
That was absolutely not part of it. I've been in this dumb waiting room. I'm in a virtual waiting room. I should be watching TV. I'm sitting here. What is this podcast even about anymore?
Kyle looks like he's sitting in his private jet, like on the runway right now.
Really do.
I can't.
If I dedicated all my time I spent sitting in a virtual waiting room for this dumb podcast, I could have got a jet.
You
Could have been investing in Bitcoin this whole time.
I was the one that got you into Bitcoin. Don't forget.
Yeah, and now my money's lost. It's lost. It's gone. I can't even log onto the site in this country anymore. They have my money somewhere. I have to travel to a foreign country to access money.
It's so true too. Like he literally cannot get into his Binance account anymore. He doesn't know if he's got 500 or 5 million in there. But
nothing. I got nothing. They got it. It's their money.
That's so great. Kyle, how you doing tonight? That I started a fire in your honor, so if something happens, you got to get over here quickly.
It seems like you're inside.
That's exactly what Sean said. Why does it feel like he goes, well, there's a window there. I go, Sean, windows work both ways.
Where is you're in your backyard?
No, I'm on my front porch.
You have a fire going on your wooden front porch?
Yeah, it's a fire pit, dude.
Yeah, you don't think the bottom gets hot? You know, you've never heard of residual heat?
Oh God, the guy's a firefighter. And all of a sudden, he's giving me safety tips.
Well, I mean, if I were to give safety info on anything, would you want it to be a fire?
It is that's for sure. Kyle, one thing I've asked every guest tonight is before we get into sports talk or anything like that, what's your hot take on life? Just give me, it doesn't need to be sports related. Just what's your
Did you surprise everyone with this question too?
I did surprise everybody with this question. So you're not the only one that's trying to think. You gotta have one that you think of right off the top of your head when I ask that, don't you? Or no?
What's a hot take in life?
You're a comedian, Kyle. You do.
A hot take in life, man. This could get deeply sad. I don't think.
Don't make it sad. Just make it.
Okay.
Funny.
I see you're still trying to do the comedy podcast thing. Okay.
Yeah. Allie,
I shouldn't secretly say like Ted Kaczynski had like the right mindset. He just shouldn't have blown up all those mailboxes. Shit. I shouldn't say that. He went about it in a strange way, but he was on the right path. You don't want me to say that? Technology is slowly killing us. Maybe not even slowly anymore.
No. You just spent 10 minutes trying to get on a podcast.
I know. This is how crazy technology sucks. So much fucking dick. Sorry. 15 minutes ago, I was totally fine, having a normal life. 10 minutes ago, I tried to log on to my Wi-Fi, and I could have killed people. It made me so mad. I could have punched people's heads off. And it was only because my Wi-Fi didn't connect to my computer. I could have committed homicide. Why do we let technology do this to us?
And that has been a very common theme tonight too. Sean talked about Sean's fight against technology was everybody going to the movies and being stuck on their phones and scrolling through Instagram while watching the movie. And so, I mean, like, yeah, you're right. Technology is killing us slowly. What about? I know you have a few, and you maybe even shared some on this podcast this year. But what's your? Why don't you do one of each? Like a hot take of somebody that you really like that nobody likes, and then a hot take of somebody that you hate that a lot of people love.
Okay, I'll do I don't hate this guy. But I think with this guy, I think people are blending real life football with fantasy, and I think the fantasy is well below the real life football. And that's Devin Achane. I think he's don't get me wrong. I think he's a fun player, but like, you want to talk about odds. DraftKings has him at 750 yards. Is that guy winning you a championship getting 750 yards? And he ain't catching the ball. He didn't catch a lot last year.
He did. He
did not. He had 20 catches.
Big gains.
Limited time. 20
big gains. So now you're saying big gains. Let's just hope every time he touches. Let's pray again. This guy averages 8 yards a carry. Let's pray again. He's a touchdown dependent guy. He's 5'8", 186. Are you kidding me? That's like a welterweight. That's nothing. And let me tell you this. I'm not even a big Raheem Mostert guy. But they drafted a guy who's 6 foot 220 and is just as fast as Devin Achane.
Yeah.
Well, in the third round, same third round. This is not going to be a two-headed monster like last year. Jalen Wright's getting the ball. This is going to be a three-headed monster. He's bigger, stronger, and just as fast.
I think Mostert eventually fades out as Jalen Wright fades in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I still do kind of think it does stay, quote unquote, a two-headed monster. But I 100% agree with you that Wright forces his way in and can possibly be better. I mean, at the end of the day, you're right in the sense of we all loved Achane. I mean, all three of us, I think, were all over him last year, and for mostly because Kyle, you listen to everything I say, and then Ryan and I do a podcast. Yeah, but like, no, we were in on him big, but he did only have some big games, and I feel much more comfortable with him in a best ball setting, obviously, because he can go off whenever. But I think there's going to be games that, and who doesn't have these games, but I think there's going to be more often with Achane than most the games where you put him in your lineup and like, fuck, man, I mean, a game where if he doesn't get in the end zone and he's only playing within the 20s and he gets you 14 points, that's going to look at that's a disappointment for a guy that you spent a second round on.
And again, not for nothing, like, let's be honest, he's a 10 touches a game. Like, that's what he's getting. And he made the most out of it last year. He had 100 rushes for 800 yards. He averaged 8 yards a carry. Is that going to happen again? Is Raheem Mostert going to get like 21 touchdowns again? No, I think we can both agree, especially behind a Miami line that is worse off. I just think that the level at which people are talking about Achane, I think they're blending in the funness of football and watching him play with fantasy. And I think he puts up points and I think it's fine. I just don't think he's a league winner the way people are assuming he's just going to come in and have Christian McCaffrey numbers.
Well, I think he's different than McCaffrey because he doesn't have that same projectable volume. But the thing about it is that, all right, I think we can all agree he's not going to have 8 yards a carry. But if he, instead of 120 catches, so 120 touches, he has 200 touches. And he goes down to, 6 yards a carry or 5 yards a carry, and he adds a couple of touchdowns. He was already at 170 half PPR points last year on that production. So you're looking at then a baseline of a back end, RB1 with that. And again, we're presuming that the offense is still going to stay the same, but I am making that assumption because it's McDaniels and because they still have Reek, they still have Waddle, like they still have those pieces that I think make HM what he is. So I see the argument. And I love that thought because, you have to constantly kind of check yourself and how you feel about these players. But I can see the logic behind your argument for sure.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I like him. I'm not, that's why I said, I'm in no way I'm sitting here like I hate him, but I think the funness of an Achane and he might be a Jamal Charles, you know what I mean? Like he might come in and just be like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not huge. I'm sorry, I'm not in the 200 pounds, but like, the way they split up the carries last year, then added a piece who also, like I said, happens to be, by all accounts, pretty good and had a great preseason where I'm like, well, it's not going to be 50-50 anymore. And I don't think it's going to be 50-25-25.
And I think Malik Washington's a better spot for them at wide receiver 3 than they had last year too. So like, I think they upgraded another offensive position as well. That means, another guy that needs to grab some touches. You could tell how confused Kyle was. That's the first time Kyle heard Malik Washington's name.
Are you kidding me? I have him in every league. I drafted Malik Washington everywhere. I'm a fucking. I'm big on. I was big on him. That fourth round, I went Malik Washington every draft I could in the fourth round.
It's fun. I just recently looked at some of my earliest Best Ball Mania drafts from like late April. I think the first one I did. In my first team I drafted back then had Malik Washington on it as my wide receiver 8. So I'm loving that team right now. Just give me that beautiful dart lottery ticket on the 18th round. Nothing like it.
Kyle, give us a guy that you're higher on than most people.
All right. I don't know if this guy's low per se, But I think with the Sam Laportas and the emergence of Kincaid, I think Kyle Pitts has a good chance of leading all tight ends in receptions and yards this year. I think he's right up there. I think he was on a fucking shitty team. He had a bad year. He he was injured his second year. I'm not saying that transferred over, but to his third year. But I just
see
think
the injury news today that there's a hamstring.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine.
I know.
I
that.
don't know what else to say.
I know. No, I totally agree.
I think he, again, in a league where we sit here and go, tight ends take 3 years to learn the game. This guy came in and had 1,000 yards his rookie year. Sam Laporta didn't do that. Kincaid didn't do that. And I think he comes in and I don't know. I'm extremely high on him. I think he has the best season of any tight end this year.
Yeah, I think what we've learned from football, and especially for me focusing in on this in fantasy for the past couple of years, is that coaching really does matter, right? So, yes, it does matter who your quarterback is, but usage is so important. And I finally think that the Falcons have a functional offense now that you have Raheem Mostert over there. You bring over the offensive coordinator, from the Rams, I think, right? I forget the guy's name. But, they're finally, things are looking up over there. So are you really going to look at that roster, like you were saying, and say, Kyle Pitts, after having a historic rookie season, after being drafted in the top 5 of a draft that had, Chase, had Waddle. I mean, that draft was loaded and he was worthy of that selection. I've still been all aboard the Kyle Pitts train. I am a little worried about this lingering, hamstring thing, that's just been reported on, but maybe it's just a nothing, and hopefully it'll be all right. So wheels up.
So every other guest, we've only made play one game, but we have 10 minutes till Leone gets on, and you don't get choices. So I'm going to make you play all 4 games. I'm going to start with a couple that we haven't done yet. This one, Marry, Fuck, Kill. And if you remember, this is a segment that I pitched to you for 2 years while you were my co-host. It wouldn't let me do. So here we are. You have no say anymore, and you're going to do it. So what I did was I picked 3 players from the same position right next to each other in ADP. So, they're all close to each other. You're going to have to pick one to marry, one to fuck, one to kill, one you don't want anything to do with, one that you want to fuck, the one that you think is going to come out the gate strong. Really, they're going to do you good, but not maybe the whole season. And then marry someone that you think you want to have for the whole season. Just redraft. Don't think about a dynasty brain here. So let's start with running back. And I like this. This is running back 5 to 7, I think. Isaiah Pacheco, Josh Jacobs, James Cook. You guys can both do this too. So, but start with you, Kyle.
Okay, I will. Oh, fuck. That's tough.
It's tough. I only picked tough ones.
I'm going to marry James Cook. I don't think any of those guys are spectacular. Okay. But if I'm going with a Bills mindset, they're going to run the ball. He performed very well, especially with Joe Brady. And I don't think they're just going to hand the keys to Ray Davis this season. They didn't with James Cook, and he was clearly better than Singletary his rookie year. We know how McDermott does with some rookies, and I think that transfers over to Ray Davis. So I think as far as like steady production, I think he's going to have a pretty solid year. I'm going to fuck Josh Jacobs because, I think he comes out of the gate, like you said, I think he has a really good year too, but I think he slows down because he's older. Just second half of the season. I think maybe, and then they have Marshawn Lloyd back there. So maybe he takes over. He plays a different role. He's more of a pass catcher. So maybe Josh Jacobs just runs and he catches the ball. Maybe that's how that goes. And then, I'll kill Pacheco. One, just the Chiefs, whatever. But, I don't know. I think he's fine. I don't think he's an insanely talented running back. I think he's on an insanely talented offense, and I think he could be replaced.
Yeah, I think my answer to this is that I'm going to line all three of them up in a row so that I can use the one bullet and I can just kill them all. Just one shot. I don't have to marry or fuck any of them. I think if I truly had to answer this question, I'd kill James Cook. I just don't believe in him. I think, I just don't think he's that good. I probably would. I guess I'll say fuck Pacheco and marry Jacobs, only because I do think that throughout the course of the season, whether it's Pirine or whether it's Carson Steele, like they're not satisfied with Pacheco. I think they're ready to see something else too. Like I don't think they're just going to hand in the ball 200 times and say, "Hey, I have a great year." But they could do that with Jacobs because of some of the other issues. So I have the most confidence in Jacobs now, which is funny because earlier in the offseason, if you asked me that, I've been like, hell no.
I would have been totally opposite, and I'm answering the same. I would answer the same way as you, and I would have been totally. I think I would have been more so along the lines of Kyle. But Pacheco to me is like dead, and he kind of was always. I wasn't drafting him a lot because of how high he was going, and then came like some really respected people that I like that were really hyping him up and being like, I mean, come on, this guy has got no competition and great offense. Okay. And I kind of started drafting him more. And then with the Carson Steele, I mean, like, and the Pirine thing was like the nail in the coffin. It's like, okay, he's going to be catching the ball. Steele's probably going to be the goal line back. What does that mean for Pacheco? I mean, again, probably the same thing it means to Cook. I think Cook is just going to be inside the 20s as well. But you're taking touchdowns away from this guy. Now you're talking about how they are in the red zone with trying to get other guy. Noah Gray gets these second and third tight ends get touchdowns. Or Andy Reid's going to find a way to get this Carson Steele like fucking 15 touchdowns, dude. It's just it's an Andy Reid guy. This dude is going to be like lining up as a center.
and it'll work. He'll be the third best center in the league somehow.
Yeah, somehow. Like it'll be crazy. All right. I like that. That was fun. All right, let's do the other game that we haven't done. We haven't done Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Hot take. Kyle, we've really come far with production value since you
I see this banner going by. I was like, dude, this had to take Lou years to figure out how to do this.
Have you seen the new Open yet? Have you seen the new Open?
No.
You're part of it.
Oh yeah. I thought you were going to play it. I was like, I'll just watch it. You don't got to play it.
Yeah. Watch it later. But yeah, you're part of it. All right. This is
this your answer?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Who has the most overrated fantasy value this year? Is it A, Jalen Hurts, B, James Cook, C, Christian Kirk, or D, Sidney Sweeney? You could use 50-50. Poll the audience, and I don't know what this is.
Imagine needing a lifeline for this question.
Wouldn't I just call Lou?
Like, hey, dude.
Hey, Lou, why don't you just tell me the answer so we can get this shit over with?
I will say this: Leone did just jump in and jump out. Either he is going to be in very shortly, and I can let you go, or he saw what we were playing. Was like,
he was like, "Oh no, I have a reputation to uphold. I can't be doing this."
It's so great.
All right. Well, here's the thing. I know it's A or B. I say that, but then I've heard you call Sydney Sweeney not hot. And
oh, that's true.
And I know you really like Christian Kirk. You've liked him for like 4 years. So like I think he's right where he should be. You just badmouth James Cook.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something about the Sydney Sweeney thing? But I not come along to this with you, and I'll do it publicly if I have to. But I have come back out to you and been like, I'm an idiot, right? Like I've said that.
Yes.
Okay. Because I think I made that take at one time, and then and you called me the dumbest person ever, and I was like, whatever, dude. And then I spent a lot of time with Sydney Sweeney since. I just want you to know,
nice.
Not overrated.
All right. So again, I think you like Christian Kirk. You just badmouthed James Cook. You talked up Sydney Sweeney. But I do think, because Jalen Hurts is going around QB3, and I could see you thinking that's not right, especially because they just got Saquon. So I'll go Jalen Hurts. I think that's the most hot take you could have. So I think that's what you're going for.
Oh, wait. I think this is probably asking you confirm the final answer. You say yes. All right. Try this game again. You'll have to play again. Sorry. Maybe next time you'll get it. All right. Leone is in the back, but we're going to do one more, but I'll let you pick.
I don't even know. Oh,
no, I'll let you pick this one, but I really want you to do, hold on, stop sharing. I want you to I know how great you are at impersonations. I'll never forget your impersonation of, but one time we were playing the game. What's the game? Heads Up or whatever. And to do British, do a British accent. Kyle just goes, fish and chips. That was just in Kyle monotone voice. That was his impression, and I got it though. But all right, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do impersonate. So
we're not. What's the answer to the game?
The game was James Cook. But I think Leone's gonna have to.
If I just got that right, we could have been done. Sorry, Ryan.
No, we would have went to another one. But hold on, here we go. Because I want you to do this. You would be fun for this one. All right. First spin is going to be whose voice you're going to do your hot take in. And then the second spin is who you're going to talk about. But there's Christopher Walken, Trump, De Niro, Bill Belichick, Rocky Balboa, and your mom. Okay?
Huh.
So.
My mom.
Yeah. Oh, man, you got the easiest one. All right. Bill Belichick.
Can I just do my mom?
I thought Bill Belichick would be that. All right. And then
I'm doing my mom.
You have to do a hot take on, you can do your mom. That's fine. On Kyren Williams. So
this is perfect.
Are you doing your mom or you're doing
I'm doing my mom.
Okay.
All right. She's got a thick Buffalo accent, which, as if anyone is listening, it's Lou. It's insanely nasally and very heavy on A's. So she would be like, Kyren Williams, I saw on the TV, he's returning punts now. What does that mean? When does he catch it? And then what's he gonna do? Do they just kneel it down? I heard that football is different now with punts. Is that true, Kyle?
I mean, she still didn't have. That was a great. I met your mom. It's a great impression of your mom. Did she? I didn't hear a take about Kyren Williams in there.
Oh, okay. I like that Blake Corum better. He's from Notre Dame, right?
Sad. Okay. Outside of the impression, do you have a Kyron? Does the punt return thing, all jokes aside, the punt return thing really scare you, or is that like?
No, I don't think it scares me. I saw someone make this take, so I'm gonna claim it, but like, oh, he's getting the ball more. That sucks. Yeah. Like, I will say again, and we said this about Kyron Williams last year, is even in the middle of him, like, you know, being a league winner last year, is he special? Or does he get the ball a shit ton? And are they going to split it? Even if they go 60-40, is that 60 going to win you the league again?
Yeah, I've wanted to do the research, but I've been too busy drafting. But like, I can't think of another opportunity, and I know Leone will probably have this on top of his head when he joins us here. But like, when was the last time someone went from like an 18th round draft pick to a 2nd round draft pick the next year? I just think I think his value is probably a little bit and it's just dropped a little bit and just enough here with the punt returner thing that maybe like make him draftable here in the last couple of days of best ball. But yeah, I agree with your comments. And Corum, a good prospect, right? So like if he gets the opportunity and it's the same thing, like what does that end up looking like? So well, thank you, Kyle, for pretending to have fun. Thank you for you've been our longest guest today while we waited for Mike. So I appreciate it. But we're gonna let you go, and we will see you soon. Fight many fires for us.
Stay safe tonight, Lou. When you make sure you stay out of your house when that fire starts. Just get out.
All right, we're moving right along. Let's just bring him right in. Friend of the show, best friend, I think, of the show. Give it up for Mike Leone, everybody.
Hey,
the place goes crazy.
You know, I know Ryan, but who's the guy with the glasses here?
That was I will say I know we've talked about it via social media. Very, very, very funny. I laughed. I think I laughed more at your. I texted him and said, "Hey, you're my best friend. Really need you to be part of this show." And he goes, "Is this Louis?" And that was, to me, that my dad's done that. I remember texting my father before he did, not after he died, before he died, and texted him. I was like, "Hey man, just I like still text. Hey, I know we don't do this a lot. I just want you to know, really love you. I'm proud of you, and you're really kicking cancer." So I said, he texted me back, "Who is this?" It really brought back those vibes. So thanks, Mike, for making me feel right at home.
That's not exactly the angle I was going for, but
yeah, you reminded me of my dead dad.
Yeah.
The first question we've asked everybody, and right before we get into any kind of sports hot takes, what is your hot take in life? What is your one take of like everyday life that you're different at than most people?
I feel like I'm getting philosophical here. Are you talking like I like Pepsi or like something like bigger or more important?
Whatever way you want to interpret it. It could be something as simple as I like Pepsi or mayonnaise sucks, or tuna fish is the best thing ever, but it could be philosophical too. You're quick on your feet.
Okay, I say this as someone who drinks, but I do think as a society we are like totally brainwashed by big alcohol. I guess that would be my hot take.
Okay. As far as
just like how ingrained it is into like everything we do, like if
like
you're gonna go out for like a social thing, it's like, hey, let's go out for a drink, or you go to the Bills game, and I'm not anti-drinking by any means, but just like how pervasive it is, sort of thing.
100%.
It's probably a hot take, but yeah,
I like that. What about your Bills fan first? So let's start there. why don't you give us your biggest Bills fantasy take of the season coming up?
God, I feel like my Bills takes for fantasy at least are pretty lukewarm. They're not a lot of fun. I am drafting a good bit of Keon Coleman, I guess. I don't think I like him as much as Merritt does, but I do like him. I just think, rookie upside, he's basically going to be a starter from day one, which wasn't a shoe-in, over the course of the summer. And I'm not sure how good he is, but he's the only, he could be, if he hits, he could be drafted in like round 2 next year of fantasy drafts. There's just not a lot of players you can say that about for where he goes in drafts.
Yeah, in addition to using my own eye test, right, which is just like watching and like, hey, I like what this guy looks like. But I like to look back on the way too early like mock drafts for like the following year when, like, let's say these guys are like sophomores going into their junior year and they're all on projection. Like there were a lot of reputable sites that were projecting to him to be the first or second or third receiver off the board. And I think that as the draft cycle goes on, the possibility of like doing paralysis by over analysis, it increases because you're constantly going through these cycles. You get these narratives, you get this more information, these testing numbers, and sometimes you can overreact to that information. So that's all to say, I do think that Coleman's going to be a value, and I think he's been underrated throughout this whole process.
Yeah, Sean Siegel of RotoViz, who does a really good job with prospects, kind of talks about something similar, like really understanding like the journey of the player. Because it's good background to have to know that at one point in time, and I mean, when he was with Michigan State, I think he like outproduced Jaden Reed, if I'm remembering correctly. So there's, it's not the most flawless profile, but there's definitely some green check marks there.
Have you heard the high school stat? I'm trying to look it up now because I just like heard Mike Show talk about it and you reference it. It's like something like he had in high school. He had like 42 touchdowns on 52 catches or something like that. Something stupid like that.
Nice TD rate.
Yeah, it was like a dumb, but Scott Barrett actually was on Mike's show on GR and was like, I don't love going back to high school and like talking about touchdown rate, but he's like, this is the most impressive stat I ever heard, type of thing. All right, so that's is there anybody that you're specifically down on the Bills, I guess, compared to where ADP and consensus is?
Maybe Shakir a little bit. I think he'll be in the beginning of the season. I think he might have, the highest floor of the bunch, but I'm worried that he's just never going to earn a ton of targets. He was very good on a per target basis. And I think sometimes with those guys, we're like, oh, well, Diggs is gone now, so he's going to be this much better when he gets this many more targets. And then it just doesn't really work that way. His target per route run numbers aren't that great, even though his efficiency per target is good. And that should increase with Diggs gone, but not if Keon Coleman breaks out, especially the second half of the season. And Kincaid's probably going to take a step forward. And
that's kind of been my concern with Shakir all along. I think at the end of the day, the talent will win out. And I don't know, to me, not to get back to Coleman, I always find a reason to get back to talking about Keon Coleman. But it's like you watch that guy, after the catch, he just doesn't get enough credit for how good he is after the catch. I mean, he looks to me like Zay Flowers after the catch with his ability to be elusive and evade defenders. And he actually had very similar testing numbers in like the 3-cone drill as Flowers. And he's just a bigger version of him to me. So I'm excited to see what he can do. It may be interesting to see how long it takes the volume to get up. Because, we'll see if the trust is there right away or if, he's kind of on the 3 to 4 catch a game, plan until he really breaks out.
Mike, do you have a big, just overall in the whole league, what's your biggest hot take, I guess, player wise though?
Probably going back to the Kyle Pitts I think it's finally happening this year. So he's my highest. I think he's my highest owned player in Best Ball Mania, which I maxed out. If not, he's like top 2 or 3, which is kind of hard to do at tight end. So definitely very pro Kyle Pitts. I just think he wasn't fully healthy last year. Of course, we get a report today that he's like limited with a hamstring. It sounds like it was nothing, but it's not exactly what you want to hear when the guys, burned you. At least last year. I don't think I was on him 2 years ago, but last year I definitely was. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be such a huge transformation in terms of what the offense looks like. And it's like people know that, but I think people have a hard time really grasping it until they see the numbers. Like they still see, same with Drake London, like the stats that he put up last year. And it's hard for them to be like, oh, why is he going where he does in drafts when, he only put up these numbers, and it's going to be, they're going to throw the ball like 6 times more per game, which is like adding, a game and a half of stats to the entire, and the passes are going to be coming from a way, way better. I mean, Desmond Ridder just lost the QB2 job to Clayton Tune. Like, I mean, the quarterbacks these guys were playing with were really bad. So, pro Kyle Pitts.
That's a really good take. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, going off that point. So earlier we were talking about Pitts, and how he had a historic rookie season. Of course, that was with, I think it was with Matt Ryan, right? Wasn't he still there? Yeah. And so, that was Matt Ryan at that point was a shell of himself. One player I want to get your opinion on, your take on, is Brock Bowers. So I've been higher than I think market on him just because of his profile as a prospect. I mean, I think you'd be living under a rock the past couple of months to not have or see any of the concerns about the passing offense and the Raiders offense in general and who's going to be back there at quarterback. But generally, what's your temperature on Brock Bowers delivering as a tight end 1 this year? I mean, he's being drafted, I think, 10th overall right now as a 10th tight end taken. So is he going to deliver, above that or below that or right there?
I mean, it's such a big range of outcomes for him. Again, like if you're going for big wins, like not to be repetitive, but the rookies, like because we don't have a track record on them, they're the ones that can way outperform their draft costs. It just doesn't happen that much with veterans. I think he goes right where he should, though. I'm not really high or low. On the pro side is that he is since the best tight end prospect we've had since Kyle Pitts. Like he's like up there. They can do a lot of things with him. He's really good after the catch. I'm a little worried that this will be a little bit of a boomer offense and it's not great quarterback play. And even though it's not a great offense, they do have guys that are good at earning targets. I mean, Devontae Adams still earned targets at a super high rate last year. Jacoby Myers was pretty good despite the bad quarterback play. I think they're going to do 2 tight end stuff a lot with Michael Mayer mixing in. So not that that's necessarily bad because that means Bowers is on the field too, but I'm just a little worried he won't get enough opportunity to show what he can do from a talent perspective, which means he like really has to hit hard from an efficiency standpoint.
And just to follow up on that, if Devontae Adams is traded, does your tune change? And let's say he's the sole or the uncontested number 1 option in that offense at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would change my tune a bit because as much as you don't, you want to draft players for their talent and stuff, and you don't want to like overreact to like who's potentially blocking them or not. When you remove a guy who gets like 30% of the team's targets, like clockwork, and is a big threat in the red zone, which is where tight ends usually thrive, I do think that would have a pretty big impact for Bowers positively. Even if the offense was worse overall, I just think that just opens up the gate for the opportunities to be there, which is where I'm like worried about him, especially like FFPC drafts that are, 1.5 point per reception. Like I have a harder time seeing him justify his draft cost there, where some of these guys up top are just going to kill him in catch volume, I think. Whereas an underdog, I've taken him a good bit as like that tight end 2, where, I think the efficiency you can ride that a little bit more in half PPR as opposed to 1.5 point per reception.
Well, I know we're running a couple minutes later than I told you, but our 10-20 guess isn't here, and we haven't gotten to a game yet. So I'm going to make you play at least one game with us here before you leave. and I guess let's do some hot take Jeopardy. We've played a couple of these so far. Right now, what we have left is a couple She Hate Me. She Hate Me are questions about either Tyreek Hill or Jerry Jeudy. Super Bowl question about Lamar Jackson. And then Return of the Mac question about possible comeback player of the year award. What would you like to go with?
Let's go Super Bowl. We'll see if we can know our Lamar Jackson or not.
Lamar Jackson shits the bed this year. This man will be the most surprising quarterback name to finish ahead of him in fantasy points.
The most surprising quarterback to finish ahead of Lamar. Let me look at the list here. I'm afraid to get. So is there a right answer here that you've picked? Is that what I'm trying?
Like I've definitely, and I mean, I did this 14 hours ago. Maybe.
Let's go. Who is Dak Prescott?
Who is Dak Prescott? I don't think that's going to be the answer. Who is whoever you just said out loud, because opinions are like assholes, because Lamar cannot control either. I don't remember. This answer is a surprise to me. But Dak, explain Dak to me, because I do not have him in my.
Well, I mean, the premise is that he shits the bed, so it's like,
yeah.
I'm assuming Lamar sucks more so than that. Like Dak is great.
Okay, so Dak's what, quarterback 12?
I got Dak in the top 10 though. I do think Dak's undervalued. I mean, it's a little risky because they don't have any skill player talent outside of CeeDee Lamb, but Dak year over year is one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. Their play volume is among the best in the NFL year over year. They throw at a pretty high rate, especially last year over the second half once they out of the bye week, and they had success with that. And there's not much reason for that to change. I don't think they're going to be grinding out a ton of games with Zeke Elliott and Rico back there. So just on, the combination of pass volume and passing efficiency, if you squint, it's not going to be like that crazy different from CJ Stroud, except Stroud's throwing to, better players, obviously. And there's a reason he goes earlier, but I don't think it's that crazy to think those two could have pretty similar stat lines.
No, and I think that's the perfect guy to like kind of comp them with too, is that I think I can see that. And neither of them have the kind of upside that comes with the rushing. So no, I like that. Mike, I appreciate you spending a couple extra minutes with us tonight. I thank you for finding some time to come in with us. We'll have you on for as many shows as you'll do during the season with us. But we got our next guest in the back, so we'll let you go now. And
sounds
good luck this season. And
good luck, guys. It's finally here.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Talk to you soon. All right. We're trucking along. We got our next guest coming in. Tim Graham from The Athletic. How are you, buddy?
You should have stayed with your previous guest.
Tim's been sending me warning messages via text the last hour while we've been recording. Tim, you're on remote here.
I am on remote, and you know what? I had a little contraption in my car. My son bought this for me as a Christmas present like 2 years ago, and I didn't deploy it. And I thought it was going to be amazing. I was going to be able to on my dashboard and suction cup it and do all this other stuff. And let's just say that I should have a fire behind me.
You should be.
I'm half in the bag. And I'll admit it. Like I'm about as honest as you can get. I was doing a fantasy football draft earlier tonight, and I told you, I said, look, Lewis, I might be half in the bag. And you're like, hey, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And I said, look, man, you got my air conditioner fixed. To go.
I know. Listen, one thing about me is I'm a hustler, and I know when you always wait. You get that one little favor, and I wait. This is maybe 2 years ago. I got his air conditioner fixed. I said,
you got me a guy who fixed my air conditioning unit in short order.
In short order. So I've been waiting 2 years. I've been holding this.
And after this, I owe you for life.
Well, there it is. Regular. Pay attention to introducing regular on-air analytics of the nerds guest.
Now, Louis,
Tim Graham.
Let me say this though.
Go ahead.
Like I said, I'm half in the bag, and I'm gonna be as diplomatic as I can throughout the course of this interview. Those glasses that you're wearing and that fire behind you, I cannot even come close to embarrassing myself as much as you have tonight.
Tim,
yes.
there's only it's this is my third beer, so I'm getting close.
You know it. I know it. The American people know it.
I am getting closer to this fire, and it is scary. One of our guests tonight was a firefighter, and he was legitimately concerned about my safety. Now the glasses and while we're there, I have a headband in.
We talked about it tonight, and I'm rehashing. Are we getting? Is it getting repetitive here, or what? Have you explained these glasses?
No, I have not. Well, I've explained my glasses. I've explained my glasses weekly. I wear a different pair of glasses every week. This is one of many. I have 12 pairs of glasses, different colors. They've kind of, I don't want to brag, but it's been kind of become my thing, Tim. It's kind of been my. Don't look impressed.
I don't like.
But when I tell you, I love that you brought. Did you bring a roadie in from? That's the best. I love it.
Coffee. This is coffee.
Oh, it's coffee. Okay, that's coffee. That would have been the most impressive thing ever.
Bill's press room. Whatever generic brand of coffee they get. This is my coffee. This is coffee. I'll drink coffee all night.
Now, the most important question is: after you're done with us, do you go back inside, or is this ending your night, or is this are you just being so kind out of the kindness of your heart that you're going to sit in your car and sobering up for 15-20 minutes to talk to us before you go back into the bar?
Now, wait. Now, when you talk about sobering up, now I say I was drunk and I had the bag. Now, that's a gentleman's thing to say. Is maybe I've had a couple of drinks. Now you're calling me a drunk.
All right. Before we get into
coffee, I have been drinking coffee. I got this is my. Anyways, let's talk Bills football.
Before we talk about the Bills football, we're talking hot takes for any hot takes for the Bills, whatever. We're gonna ask you that, but
and I'm a little nervous.
I've asked every guest before we get into that. What's your hot take in life? Do you have a hot take in life that you have this, and I know you will be one of the most combative people with your opinions, and I love that about you, by the way. So I admire that from afar. But do you have an opinion where you are way off on from the consensus of most people, that you have a hot take that is different from most?
Lewis, I think I will. I like calling you Lewis, by the way.
Only my mom calls me Lewis.
I am not combative about my opinions because I am comfortable in my opinions. I am combative I'm generally combative with assholes.
It's perfect. You do it in a perfect way. It's a compliment.
I don't feel like I need to defend. So I'm generally not an a-hole when it comes to my opinions. But you're right. I guess I am an abrasive individual, or I'm known as an abrasive guy, or somebody who doesn't put up with a lot of bullshit.
I love that though, because too many people in your job title are afraid of what that looks like, and I love that you.
I think there's that. My hot take on life is to be ambitious and be willing to move. Be willing to actually pull up stakes, go somewhere else. And I know that that's one of that moving is, there's some anxiety that goes with that. But every time I have moved, I have felt so much smarter because you learn a different way of life. You learn a different culture. So I grew up in Cleveland, moved to Boston, moved back to Ohio, went out to Las Vegas, moved to Buffalo. I was down in Florida for a bit. And I've always felt like I've never felt smarter than when I have gone to some place I've never been before and actually lived, and not to visit, but to live. So I think that there's some, that would be my hot take, is to experience change, go somewhere you've never been, and actually live there.
Love that. No, love that. That's it. And I've lived in 3 different places, and I feel very similar to it. I do come back to Buffalo very happily. The both moves I've made, I've come back and kind of feeling like I'm a Buffalonian, but both of those experiences have been great learning experiences in my life. So I love that.
Louis just talking about moving from the South towns to the North towns to the West side.
A weird thing too. I'm sorry, I'm trying to tilt this thing.
If only you had that contraption.
Well, yeah,
I hope your son's not one of the thousands of listeners tonight, and not and showing that you don't have the Christmas gift.
He hates his father. He's not watching
this. Let's talk, Bill. Oh, go ahead.
To Florida, I thought it was hilarious that even if you're going within the same town, it was a half-hour drive. Like, even if you're going a mile away, it was going to take you a half hour to get there because of traffic and the signals and all that other stuff. And I always told myself, if I ever get the opportunity, I'm going to go back to Buffalo, and it's not going to matter whether it's North Towns, South Towns, or that my family lives 3 hours away from Buffalo to Cleveland. And that was like a bridge too far. It was always that way. And it's still, now I've moved back. And that's a weird thing about Buffalo, is that the North Towns to the South Towns, you might as well be talking about going from Canada to Brazil.
Really?
There's a mental block of, I'm not going down. I'm not going to Hamburg. Like, that's stupid, but you got family down there. It was a weird thing, but then you're living in South Florida, and no matter where you went, it took you forever to get there. And it gave you a certain perspective of, all right, go visit your family more, all that type of stuff. Anyways, I'm rambling. That is a Tim Graham half in the bag.
I love that we're gonna get to the end of your segment without talking any sports, but I absolutely love it. We've had these conversations.
Who's coming after me? Who's next?
Hulk Betts, and he will be fine as long as you're fine giving us a couple extra minutes. But no, let's talk Bills real quick first. Obviously, that's your expertise. What
is it?
Do you have a hot take? Do you have a hot take about? You could go ahead and give me one about the team specifically, but is there a specific player you feel better or worse about than kind of national consensus right now?
My Bills takes are pretty milquetoast, I think, in that. Well, I think from a national standpoint, my Bills takes would be, look, first off, I've never been accused of being a homer.
Nope.
And I'm not invested in the Bills. I've never been emotionally invested in the Bills. I'm not from here. And also from a journalist standpoint, you're not supposed to be. But I think the Bills are better than a lot of people are giving them the credit for. A lot of people are falling in love with the Jets or the Dolphins from a gambling standpoint. And unfortunately, that is something that has really infiltrated journalism or the perception of what's going on. You know what? Maybe it's not unfortunate because it is an actual quantitative view on what's going on in the world, right? Like we used to be able to talk back in the early 2000s about who thought the best team in the AFC was this, that, or the other. But now you can look at the money and actually say the public thinks the Jets are the best team in the AFC East or the Dolphins have a shot, all these other things. I still find the Bills to be the best team in the AFC East. I think that the gap is closing. However, a couple things, maybe more than a couple things. The Jets, I'm going to need to see the Jets to do it first. I need to see Aaron Rodgers, old man, decrepit Aaron Rodgers, do it behind this suspect offensive line, which has been for a long time. I know that the Jets have constantly bolstering this offensive line, but whether it be injury or incompetence, the offensive line has been a big problem. And now you have a 73-year-old quarterback coming off of a torn Achilles, or he says it's a torn Achilles, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like, hey, yeah, I tore my Achilles, but you know what? I'm ready to go in 6 weeks because I've figured out with my ayahuasca tent and my yurt. And
I was going to say, there's not enough ayahuasca in the world to bring you back from that.
My dream catchers and all this other shit, whatever it is with Aaron Rodgers. It came to be a point where it's like, maybe he didn't tear his Achilles. Maybe it was something else. Anyways, I'm going to need to see it because the Jets do Jets things all over themselves. And all right, give me a month and a half on the Jets. As for the Dolphins, not a huge Mike McDaniel fan. I really like to root against him. I just don't. I think he's a wiener. He's an offensive mastermind, and yes, he's cute, and he says all the right things, and he's cheeky and all that other stuff. But the Bills have this guy's number, and they've gotten worse. Meaning the Dolphins. They have losses on the defensive side. And I think from a schematic standpoint, whatever it is, the Bills just know how to beat the Dolphins. So, and the Patriots just go ahead and write them off. So I think that the Bills are the best team in the AFC East. And maybe the Jets, maybe, but are you going to bank on a 79-year-old quarterback? I know that the age just went up. Over Josh Allen? I'm not going to do that. And so you say, all right, well, Josh Allen doesn't have the tools. What tools does Aaron Rodgers really have? Yeah, Breece Hall, all this other stuff. Anyways, I just see my hot take is that the Bills are being shorted. I like Bills more than anybody else in this division because those are the sexy picks. And I think that they're also the sexy picks because everybody wants to be smart. Everybody wants to be ahead of the curve. I'm smarter than everybody else, but I think that in this case, picking the Dolphins or picking the Jets over the Bill I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I couldn't agree more. I think I like your last point. I think it seems cool to pick the Dolphins or the Jets right now, and it's boring, right, to pick the incumbent, the Bills, right? And so that definitely plays into it. So it is the market, the betting market is a piece of information. It does show what a certain portion of the public think about anything, really, any betting market. but it's also flawed in the sense that it is only the people that are putting the money down, and they're also basing it on, there's biases that are prevalent, right? But you're just trying to look at, I guess, the average across everyone, and I see that, I get why the Jets would be the betting favorite right now, but I'm with you. I still think the Bills take this division. And if one of the two other teams, either the Jets or the Dolphins or both, make it as wild cards, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm still picking the Bills to win the East.
I'm also a big fan when it comes to predictions. I'm a big fan of the status quo. Now, that's not to say, and I had this conversation with a different podcast a couple of days ago regarding the Kansas City Chiefs going for a three-peat. Now, mathematically speaking, a three-peat, it just doesn't happen, right? But the status quo is the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC, and who throw maybe a dart. Or is it the 49ers? Maybe it's Detroit. But when it comes to a prediction, I'm going to pick the Bills until you tell me the Bills can't do it, or until I see that the Bills can't do it. And it goes back to my time when I was living in Las Vegas, and I covered a lot of boxing. And this is the example that I use a lot. Mike Tyson fought Evander Holyfield, and Evander Holyfield beat his ass the first time they fought. And so what happens the next time there is a line set at the MGM Grand or any other sports book in Las Vegas? Who's the favorite to win that fight?
Holyfield.
No, Mike Tyson was. Mike Tyson absolutely was. And it's because people can't get off of their, like, hey, we just saw this guy just beat his ass, right? And so status quo, he beat him. He's probably going to beat him again. And so that's why I go with when the Bills versus the Dolphins, or the Bills are probably going to beat them again. The Bills are probably going to beat the Jets again. They're probably going to beat the Dolphins again until you show me otherwise. Now, maybe that's a lazy way or that's an easy way out, but I think it's served me well over the years when it comes to, look, you're going to have to show me. And I think that, and it goes back to what we were discussing earlier, everybody wants to just be ahead of the curve and say, I told you so. But I think really it's like, usually at the end of the season, it's like, instead of I told you so, it's usually, well, of course. Right?
Yeah.
Of course.
And I think this obviously from being local and covering the team here for so long, but like, I also think that there's still, especially with the Bills specifically, like this, we haven't recovered from the 20-year drought, where there's this still small town, and this doesn't even have to do with the football teams, but like the small town underdog, woe is me thinking with Bills fans that it even now is like, all right, we've been in a playoff 7. We are the best. We have the best quarterback. We are this good team, and there's still plenty of people like, all right, the roster went down a little bit this year. Like, oh, here we go again, and the fans go right back into this doom and gloom, and I am very much on the same page as you, that I just don't see it. Like, again, show it to me. Show me that someone's better than someone in this division is going to beat Josh Allen in football. I just don't see it. I mean, if you take Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers off the rosters and you just, you give me those 52 and those 52, then I think the Jets match up pretty well against the Bills. But Josh Allen is just so, I mean, the quarterback position is the most important position in the game, and it's that simple. You don't need to analyze every aspect of the game when you have Josh Allen on your team,
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He is the end all be all. And if you think that he needed Stephon Diggs to be successful, which there seems to be some of that's making people wobble on the future of the Bills. Can they do it without Stephon Diggs? Well, they proved that they could do it the whole second half of the season. And I wrote a story about it in which I interviewed Devin McCourty, who former New England Patriots defensive back who not only was trying to game plan as a player to stop Stephon Diggs, but at that time in his career, and he's now with ESPN, but he was with NBC last year, he was getting ready for a Thursday night game. And he was prepping for the game by looking at film. And he was like, say, well, a broadcaster looking at film. Well, hell, there are all kinds of podcasters and all kinds of schmoes who make their living looking at film, using finger quotes. I would tend to trust somebody like Devin McCourty looking at film. And his take was, I think the Bills are trying to prove that they can win without Stephon Diggs. And I wrote a story about that. And I think that was because I thought that was accurate before I even interviewed Devin McCourty. And I think, look, it's borne out that the offense was being defiant. It was anti-Stephon Diggs. They were like, look, dude, get out of here. Like, we don't care. We're going to throw it to Khalil Shakir and we're going to work this and we're going to run more. And if you want to get out of here, beat it. But the production to Stephon Diggs plummeted, and the Bills won every game but one after Joe Brady was every game but two, if you want to count the playoff game, obviously. But down the stretch, they were 5-5 when Joe Brady took over, and then they make the playoffs. They lost one game in the regular season in overtime to the Eagles, and then they go into the playoffs, and obviously Steelers, they dominate, and then the Chiefs. But anyways, they were trying to make a statement. And I think that Devin, when I wrote that story, a lot of people thought, well, what the hell does Devin McCourty know? Which is kind of silly on its face. But in retrospect, it's like, of course the Bills were totally eliminating Stephon Diggs from the equation. And Josh Allen and Joe Brady and Sean McDermott were saying, we don't need you, and we're going to win without you. And so they go into the offseason, and I made the reference, whatever it was, death by 1,000 microaggressions, that Stephon Diggs eventually had to go. The Bills knew that they could win without him. I mean, like, this wasn't any huge risk when they traded him away, but they were willing to take that dead salary cap hit and a draft pick in 2025 and all this other shit. But yeah, I just think that there's a narrative of what's Josh Allen gonna do with this lessened supporting cast, and I don't see a lessened supporting cast. I see a cast that he won with over this whole second half of last year, and so that goes back to the whole the AFC East and people getting sexy, chic picks with the Jets and the Dolphins. I just don't see it
from a on a fantasy aspect here talking about. Do you have a favorite of those three wide receivers, the three main, Keon, Samuel, Shakir? Do you think one of them is going to kind of pull away from the other two? That's the guy, or you think they're going to be very, very even throughout?
From a fantasy standpoint, I wouldn't draft any of them. I think there are two Bills players that you should draft, three if you want to count the defense. There are two Bills players you should draft, Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid. Those are the safest picks. I think, and I've used this analogy before, it's been a joke. I think that the Bills receiving room is your junk drawer, your kitchen junk drawer. You open it up and there's the butter knife that doesn't match the other ones. You have the odd screwdriver, the half roll of Scotch tape, a couple of Chinese menus, and maybe John subs and all these other things. There's all this stuff in this drawer that you don't know what to do with, but you put it in there. And when you open that drawer, it's not going to be the perfect tool, but it's going to be the thing that's going to get the job done in that specific instance. Whether it be the dime that opens up the back of your remote control to get the battery out. And so in that drawer, you have a bunch of batteries that are half dead, right? But they're going to be enough. I think that the Bills have a junk drawer of wide receivers, and they're happy with that because they have Josh Allen, and they're going to be able to make it work.
Tim, thank you so much for giving us this much time. Thanks for taking a break from your night. We threaten each other with this quite often, but let's do this once where we are at a bar having a couple drinks and having these conversations. I've been wanting to do that ever since we've had our last conversation at Helium, but we will do that soon. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk soon. Okay, bud.
Thanks for having me on. Sorry if I
thank
rambled
you.
On.
No, thank you so much for joining us. Talk to you soon, Tim. Bye-bye. All right.
That was awesome. That was fun.
That was great, man. Cool conversation with Tim Graham. That's I mean, we got one more guest here closing out the show. Oh, Betts, what's up, bro?
There he is. There's that beautiful guy. How are you guys doing?
Save the best for last. What's up? You guys have not met Ryan, correct?
No.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Ryan. Nice to meet you. I had the pleasure of meeting Louie at the expo, and it was love at first sight.
Yeah, it really was. You know, I know you probably heard the story, but Ryan ditched me and Adam last second. He was supposed to come with us. He was our third room. If you would have known, you could have stayed right with us, me and Adam. But nope, Ryan just bailed on us last second. And
oh yeah, so sad that you had an extra room that was paid for at your Airbnb.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's really annoying to have.
I'll tell you what, even if it was paid for, your presence was missed. Your presence.
The house didn't feel like a home, is what he's trying to say.
Well, I guess
yeah, it didn't feel like a home. So we there's a lot of good things that have happened tonight, so and good that you've ended the way that you have, as we've gotten a lot of different opinions. We have a decent amount of fun game questions to get into, so that I know you're the perfect guy for this, so I'm excited. I actually specifically saved some of the fun ones for you, so I was like, all right, that's cool. But before we get into any kind of sports talk, the one thing that we've done with every guest so far is hot takes. I know we're talking hot take sports. What's your hot take in life? What do you have this? Is there something you love, hate, that other that goes off of the regular consensus?
Sheesh. So I heard the guy before me, and he kind of went pretty deep into life, and I could do that. But if we want to keep it a little lighter, I would say I haven't washed my shins in the shower since I was probably a child. So my hot take is that washing your shins and legs in the shower is not really necessary. And I say that with the caveat that if your legs are filthy, or, like you went ATV, you went four-wheeling in the woods and it's muddy and dirt's everywhere, mud's everywhere, that's the exception. We're not talking about that. But I'm saying normal course, day-to-day life. I'm not a construction worker. I'm not in the minefields, all right? That's not me. I'm not in the quarry. That's not my life. I go to an office and I come home and I'm a family man, that kind of thing. So in normal day-to-day life, I don't find the need to wash my shins or my calves. So that's my surface level, put me on the spot, something that everybody loves when we talk about this. And it's a conversation starter, because why do you need to do that? The soap just drips down your body in the shower.
Yeah.
And unless you're one of those jobs, those professions that I mentioned, I don't see the need. So
it's so amazing, because you literally could have given me unlimited amount of guesses,
and you would have never guessed that
what your hot take would be, and I would never have gotten there.
Me either.
That's so great.
Me
That's
either.
so good.
Well, you put me on the spot. I mean, I could go deep into life, X, Y, and Z, but and maybe that's for another time. But that's my That's my
No,
hot take. You know,
I like that. Mine is my lower back, but just because I can't reach it. mine is I need one of those. I need one of those. You know
Oh, yeah.
the snow brushes for like a truck.
Yeah.
Like the long ones.
like a
That's
Brillo pad on the end of it. Just really get in there. Yeah.
That's so great.
Love
All right. What about your give us your biggest hot take for the fantasy season, but give us a player. Why don't you do two? Why don't you give me the guy that you love more than consensus, and who's the guy that you hate more than consensus? And Ryan, you be the first to answer because I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. So I guess a guy, I don't know if it's considered a hot take because this player is pretty high up on most people's boards. But so I'll start with that. And if you tell me this is not hot enough, I'll spice it up. All right.
All right.
But I think that my hot take, I guess, is that Anthony Richardson ends the season as quarterback one. And I think it's hot take. That's got to be a hot take. I know people are like, oh, yeah, well, he's drafted as like 5th quarterback overall or 6th or whatever, depending on the league. But like the guy played like 3.5 games last year in the NFL. Before that, he played, I don't know, something stupid, like 12 games in college. And then he played like 4 in high school. Like I saw a stat that his total games played in his career is like 20 games, which is ridiculous from high school to now. So like, unless this guy, you know, put in so many years in Pee-wee football, the guy's barely played football in his life. So to come in and be like an NFL quarterback and hopefully be good, as you can see behind me, I am a Colts fan too. So I'm a little biased, but I'll admit I'm biased. But like, so for the guy to play 4 games and be drafted as like a top 5 quarterback, and then for me to say I think he ends the season as the number 1, I think that's spicy. But I mean, especially when you're talking about over guys like, you know, Allen and Hurts and Lamar even, and Mahomes with the upgraded cast again this year. So like CJ Stroud, like with more weapons. So there's a lot of guys that you wouldn't be surprised if they end as quarterback 1 or like even Dak was, I think, quarterback 3 last year or whatever. So like legitimate chances. So I'll take him as quarterback 5 or quarterback 6 to end as quarterback 1 at the end of the year. Is that spicy enough for you? Do you think that's spicy?
Yeah, absolutely. It is spicy enough. I mean, he's definitely, I mean, he's being drafted outside the top, you know, 60 to 70 picks of a regular, you know, single quarterback draft. And, you know, so Richardson has a really, really good per game fantasy points number. I mean, it's insane. I know it's such a limited, you can't look at that it's such a small sample size, but if you do extrapolate that and you say even you get 80% of that production, you're looking at a fantasy quarterback that's putting up like 22 points a game, which, you know, that's clearly in the realm to be QB1, especially if you hit those spike weeks. It's talked about so many times. The key with Richardson and the way that he would pay off, it's just that rushing upside, the rushing quarterbacks. You know, being the best fantasy quarterback is not necessarily, as we know, being the best actual quarterback in real life. Patrick Mahomes isn't always the first, you know, scoring quarterback. He's often not. He hasn't been in years past. So I think it's a good bet to make if you think that the Colts offense can repeat. And let's not forget who, you know, the coaches, you know, people were excited about Shane Steichen for a reason. It's because he really did a good job with that Philly offense, which, by the way, really hasn't totally been the same since they haven't found that stabilizing presence since he left. So, yeah, I love the bet. I was big into Richardson, especially early in the season when you were getting a big discount on him. As the price went up, I started to shy away just a little bit in certain situations based on build, but I love the take.
Yeah. So Louis, I said that I think my spicy take is Richardson finishes as QB1. Yeah, I mean, all the points that you resonated with are kind of why I would sit there and say I think it happens. Where it could go wrong, I guess, is just if his inexperience shows and, you know, he's chucking a ton of interceptions. I think you're going to get like almost like a Josh Allen rookie season type thing with him potentially. Like it's going to be like a roller coaster, I think. Like he's going to be a guy that could throw, you know, 20 touchdowns, run in 12 more, and then throw 15, 16, 17 picks probably potentially, because we saw it in preseason. He threw that pick that was just a miscommunication with him and Kyle Granson on a route, and it went for a pick 6. He's going to, and he like, I kind of almost love it. Like I'm a competitor. I like guys that are competitors, but he kind of like laughed it off. And I guess, you know, it's preseason. So I like that he was lighthearted about it. And hopefully that rolls off his back when he does throw picks, because they are going to come. But Yeah, if he can just harness that athleticism. I mean, the dude's like Wembanyama or whatever for basketball. Like, he's just a freak athlete. He's like Derrick Henry size, but he runs a 4.4 and, has like a 40-inch vertical leap and can throw the ball 70 yards like Jamarcus Russell or something. So hopefully he doesn't take the same career path as Jamarcus Russell, because he's gained weight like the first 2 years he's been in the league. But I think he's still I think he's a relatively lean 255, not like Jamarcus, who got up to like 275, or fat Keenan Allen that we're hearing about now. So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. As a Colts fan, I am biased, but I'm also excited. If nothing else, like, it gives you a good reason to tune in every week. So we'll see. I'll give you one more spicy one before I get into a player I'm lower on. I'm actually pretty high on Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. So in that offense, and a lot of it stems from Geno Smith, 2 years removed from being quarterback 5 in fantasy, which is crazy to even think about. Like, I don't even know if that shocked me when I was looking back on like old stats and data and stuff. I'm like, holy crap. Like, I didn't even really remember that. But Geno Smith, so 2 years, 2022, he was quarterback 5 in fantasy. And now you've got Ryan Grubb, comes over from the Huskies. And he runs like a crazy fast offense, going to kind of be like Miami Dolphins-esque. They run like 78, 79 plays per game. I saw something like they were one of the least pre-snap motion teams in the NFL last year, and now they were in the preseason only second highest behind Mike McDaniel. So, you get these guys moving, get Smith and Jigba to take another leap this year. Tyler Lockett slides into that third spot, and then you've got all these moving pieces and stuff, and get DK Metcalf, another freak, just like in open space and flying down the field. I think Geno showed us enough that he can do it. And then I was reading people that are far smarter than I in the NFL world and stuff said that like they think Geno is actually a good fit for this offensive scheme as well. So yeah, so that's another one that I think is a little spicy. I don't know if he finishes quarterback 5, but I think he could totally crack the top 10. And at least in like underdog best ball, he was going at like 22 or something, like quarterback 20 or whatever, 19. So something stupid.
I'm excited about that offense a lot. I haven't bought into Geno as much as I've bought into the other parts, but me and Ryan are all over JSN. I have been all over Kenneth Walker probably for like the last 3-4 weeks since it's become pretty obvious that he's going to dominate that backfield. And then Metcalf, my biggest problem with Metcalf, and I drafted him tonight in a $300 redraft, but my biggest problem with him has been just kind of I like the guys that he goes around a little bit too much, where I haven't gotten as much, but I have definitely tried to jump on him more here recently because I love everything I'm hearing about what that offense looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you're right. Like that is the hardest thing. I looked back at my exposures and I was a little surprised at how few I had. Now, that's not to say I didn't have a lot of them, but like I thought I would have more and I wanted to have more. But you're right. It is just he's in a tough range. But honestly, like I think I'd take him over Olave, Harrison Jr. Like I think I'd take him over some of those guys that are being drafted ahead of him most of the time. So that's kind of where I slid him up in like my rankings and where I've been trying to get him. But yeah, I mean, the talent's obviously there. If we can get the touchdowns, the big playability's there. I do think JSN takes a big leap this year. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I think it should be exciting. So that's my second spicy take then for you.
Give me that's a Ryan Muir answer. You ask him for one and he gives you two. Look at that. Ryan does it all the time. What about a guy that you're down on that everybody's up on? You got one off the top of your head you can think of?
I guess I would say I'll give you two again, but I'll give you two that are kind of like similar. It's like they're almost the same to me. Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs. They're like, to me, I think they should be the third wheel in both those offenses. I know Rome's a rookie, and I know Keenan is a target monster, and he's shown that he can do great. Keenan's like 32 now, right? Like 32, 33, comes into camp out of shape, a new quarterback too. So him and Rome, although Keenan has years of experience, are coming into a new situation with a new quarterback, so they both have to build up that rapport. So I'll take the young guy who was super highly touted out of college to be able to take that next leap and slide into that number 2 spot behind DJ Moore. And then kind of the same thing with Stephon Diggs. We know he's a head case. You guys were alluding to it a minute ago here with the previous guest. Like he's obviously a head case in the locker room. He's probably lost the step given his age and stuff and what we saw last year. He dropped that freaking pass that as a Bills fan, I'm sure everybody was just like cringes even hear me talking about. But like, he just didn't look as good. And I know they moved the offense away from him by design and stuff. I get all that too. But I do think he's taken a step back. I'm not saying he's going to be dog water or anything's going to be terrible, but like he's definitely taken a step back. And to me, in that offense, when you're surrounded by Nico and Tank, like he should be the third, and he'd be a really solid third. I'd be happy to have him, but like he's still the third in my opinion in that offense. So those are two guys that like, you know, if I end up being wrong on them, fine. But like, even where they're drafted, like I haven't really grabbed a lot of them. That's kind of my feeling.
And they're becoming, and they're too close to the guys behind them that we all like more. And I was just going to go ahead and say, like, Mira and I know Echo. We talk about this quite a bit. Like, Allen's going a little bit ahead of a Dunze ADP, or he was. Now I think they've flipped since Fat Keenan's coming out, but like they're very close. And okay, if you want to say that he's going to be the third, then of course you're taking a Dunze there. And then, you know, me and Ryan are both taking Tank Dell over Stefan Diggs. And even though Diggs is going a couple spots ahead of him in ADP. So yeah, it's hard, especially when you don't like them as the second guy, even on their own team. So
yeah,
totally get it. All right. So one cool thing you're going to get here, because we have so much left, was we've only played like one game with every guest. And the last guest didn't get any because we were running out of time. But you know, you're the last guest of the night. We have 4 games. Let's you up to do all 4 real quick?
Sure, yeah. Let's hear these things.
We're gonna start with Hot Take Jeopardy, and let me bring that up.
By the way, Louis, where are you right now? Are you at an Airbnb? Is this your beautiful house? You're sitting out by the fire?
This is my house.
Holy smokes!
I'm just on my front porch. A lot of people are talking about this, but I'm just.
You got a fire. I mean, it looks like if a stray wind blows, that you're going to light up. I mean, that would be.
Legitimately, we've all worried about it all night. We had a firefighter on earlier, and he was definitely worried about my safety.
All right, citations.
We are. With Hot Take Jeopardy, we only have 3 questions left to be picked. She Hate Me. There's 2 questions. Those are questions either about Tyreek Hill or Jerry Jeudy. And then the other one is Return to the Mac, which is a question about the comeback player of the year. You can pick any of the 3, and we'll do one of these.
All right, give me Return to the Mac for 500.
All right. A man died on the field, came back to life, and played again only to lose this award to Joe Flacco. This undeserving athlete will win Comeback Player of the Year this year. Who is your guess?
So an undeserving athlete to win Comeback Player of the Year this season.
Yes.
Man, nothing. It's hard to top the DeMar Hamlin because, like you said,
I know. I feel like the undeserving athlete line. I'm like thinking like I don't want you to look into that too much. Like, oh, you're thinking of something that's really not. I think I was just more being a Bills homer there.
Okay. That makes it. I think that makes it a little bit easier. Okay.
I think I want your real answer on the comeback player.
Okay, man. I was like, my mind was like starting to unwrap that onion, like start to peel the layers of that onion. Okay, so
I feel like, I feel like the audience knows by now. Like literally every single one of these questions, I have not known the own answer that I put in because I was so high when I was doing this earlier. like this is like Christmas morning to me. I'm like, oh shit, that's a pretty funny answer.
Meanwhile, we're reading it and it's like, this is gibberish. It's not even words. It's just letters scattered on the screen like the Matrix. All right, give me. I almost want to pick Anthony Richardson, but I will not. I will pick Aaron Rodgers. The man didn't even make it on the field. Literally, like, ran out on the field, planted the flag, and tore his Achilles last year. That's the comeback player of the year. That's perfect.
Let's see what the answer is. Who is Sam Darnold?
Oh my
this
God.
is a Sam Darnold show. Show some fucking respect.
Oh my God.
No, and that makes a lot of sense that I wrote that. That I remember, and that is 100% true.
Would it be? Are we wasting the questions by not doing them though, or do you want to save these?
We're
Okay.
We're gonna save them. We're gonna
Okay,
save them
save
because
'em.
there's other games. I want you to do every. I want you to do every game. I want you to do every game, and we don't have that. Brian's fallen asleep. We've been doing this
All
for 3 hours, so we're gonna do that. But that
Okay,
was
okay.
I do. Yeah.
Was
I
Aaron
like-
Rodgers in the other one in the 400?
No.
Who's to say?
No, who's to say? I don't even know anymore
Maybe.
at this point. This has been
Maybe.
this has been the longest podcast night of our lives.
2.5
All
hours?
right. Here we go. And this is funny because you're gonna have to start this game over. Okay, where is it? Hold on, everybody,
This is a
relax.
Sam Darnold show.
It
I
is a
love
Sam
it.
Darnold show.
I feel like the next is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, except it's not an answer. It's not a question that has an answer. It's just an opinion. It's just
Yeah, that's all it is. There's no real
I love
answer.
it.
But
I love
that's
it.
the part about it. Okay.
All right.
It is.
Where are we at?
I
Here,
have to
sorry.
think like Louis.
I'm all messed up now. I'm
Yeah.
like
All
I've had
jacked up. Think
had
like
6
Louis.
beers.
All jacked up on.
I've had 6 beers. All right. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? All right. This was done earlier, but we have to do this to get through because you got to try to get the first question right. Our previous guest did not get it right. Who has the most overrated fantasy value? A, Jalen Hurts, B, James Cook, C, Christian Kirk, or D, Sidney Sweeney?
Christian Kirk for sure.
It is not, but I'm going to give you the right answer so we can move on. And
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
go.
So there's no way I
So-
could lose. I like this.
So, yeah, so-
James Cook is your answer as a Bills fan. Okay.
my answer. Me and Ryan feel pretty similar. Our last guest, I think, there was
Okay.
another person, Leone, I think, was way down on James Cook too, right? Like, I mean,
Wow.
it's scary right now.
Christian Kirk, huh? I like Brian Thomas Jr., but we'll see. We'll see. We'll
Who
know more after
has-
week 2.
Who has the most underrated fantasy value? So right now, who's the most underrated player? A, Lad McConkey, B, DeAndre Hopkins, C, Bucky Irving, or D, Kate Blanchett?
I think it's got to be either A or B. But
This is
right
really
now-
funny because I don't remember who I picked.
Surprise for all of us.
But I do.
I gotta
think
say,
I think I know.
oh man, what would Louis do? If I was Louis, he'd pick Kate Blanchett for sure. But I'll go with give me B, DeAndre Hopkins.
Ryan, any guess?
Is the answer A?
You are definitely picking Bucky Irving here. That is
No way.
And you're both wrong because
It was
I'm
Lad. Okay, all right. I was down to
Oh.
2.
pretty sure it's Lad McConkey. Yes, it is. Look at that. You guys were both
All right.
wrong.
I had it narrowed down.
All right. I'd rather draft blank than Josh Allen. A, Patrick Mahomes. B, Lamar Jackson. C, I wouldn't even draft my father back alive. D, a 300,000 word essay.
Well, do you need the right? Are you just going to choose the right answer? I'd rather draft.
Well, you guys got to guess at least
Give
before
me man, you typical Bills hater would probably hate to choose Pat Mahomes, but this year, give me Pat Mahomes.
Ryan.
I'm also gonna pick Mahomes, even though I would take Allen first.
I think I picked. I wouldn't even draft my father back
I should
alive.
have known.
That is true. Okay, last
It's
question.
impossible to get these right.
Last
Just so you
question.
know, it's impossible.
It's on the Seattle offense, I'd rather draft Kenneth Walker than one of these second-round running backs. A, Isaiah Pacheco. B, Derrick Henry. C, Kyron Williams. D, Bishop Sankey. That's a great name. Bishop
that's a
Sankey's a
great
good name. I should get some credit for that.
So when did you? I have a follow up question. When did you do this quiz? When did you create?
This morning after I woke and baked.
Okay,
Woke
then
and
I
baked.
think I'll go with A, Isaiah Pacheco, because
Right.
Samaje Perine.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you could go. Okay. No, that's a good.
I'm gonna say Kyron Williams.
He's got his mouse hovering over it for a suspicious long. Oh, what is that? It's not even your mouse. Wait, did we get one right? It didn't even score it right.
It was right, but it was right. Isaiah Pacheco.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I got
I
one
love
right.
that there was 4 questions. It's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but the final question is only worth $500.
$500 because
Well, and it said we got 0 right, I think, right? Did I miss that?
no,
But
it said we got 0 wrong. It said we got 0 wrong.
Oh, okay.
All right. We're gonna do this game. Oh, hold on. All right. We got 2 more real quick.
Okay. Right.
Let's do Marry Fuck Kill. With Marry Fuck Kill, what we've done is I've picked 3 players at the same position right next to each other in ADP. So you have to pick one you don't want any part of, one you want to fuck, one you think's going to be really good early in the season, and then one you want to marry, one you want to have your whole season. We did running backs earlier. Let's do wide receivers. And I love this because this is no, you know what? I want to do tight end. We know each other we are known as a tight end podcast. And honestly, this is the reason why I'm asking this is because it's my least favorite part to draft. So right after those top 10 tight ends, top 11 guys, after Njoku, Bowers, I hate that next little tier. And that's Dallas Goedert, Dalton Schultz, and Pat Freiermuth. Who are you fucking? Who you marrying? Who you killing out of Dallas Goedert, Dalton Schultz, Pat Freiermuth, and both of you can answer back to back.
I have mine, so I'll go.
Go ahead.
I would kill Freiermuth. I think he's dust. And Arthur Smith is going to frustrate the hell out of us with the tight end usage. Darnell Washington's going to be out there blocking for all the running plays. So no, thank you. I'll say Goddard to marry because I think he's got the most chance of like delivering fantasy value throughout the season. And then I think if you want to go for like a little burst right out of the gate, maybe while they're getting on the same page, or you get a couple lucky touchdowns, I'll throw Schultz in there. But that's how I would have it sorted.
You wouldn't even say that you'd fuck him. You didn't even say it. You couldn't even say the word.
Couldn't say it.
I'm gonna follow in Ryan's lead with that one. So appreciate you, my friend, for going that route, paving the way. You're a trailblazer, you are, sir. I will marry Goddard as well, although I would have been higher on him pre Jahan Dotson getting there, because I do think he's gonna cut into his targets and what he can do there. But I'll back you up on that one, except for I would kill Schultz. So I'll kill him. Just kill him. I don't mind. I think Pat Freiermuth is good enough.
The fuck?
I don't know. I shouldn't say that.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Say it.
Overcome Arthur Smith.
Say it.
Ryan gave me the out, and I'm taking Ryan's out, my friend. But I don't mind Pat Freiermuth. I think he's good. That's the problem. So I think, let's use air quotes. I think he's good in that tier or whatever, and capable. But yeah, I think it's a really bad spot for him. So, but
you have to be careful on the show because you say Dalton Kincaid is delicious once, and then it turns into an open for the show. It's unreal.
I love it. Listen,
I love it.
Put me up. Put me on the show. I want to be famous when you guys make it big.
When we make it big, dude. I don't know if you know this.
Oh,
but
Jesus. I did not mean for that to be.
To
only you could take that and turn it against me somehow. But you're right. I take it back. When you get bigger.
Okay, the last game has to do with impressions. Do you think you can do an impression?
Probably not, but I'm willing to hear you out.
Willing to try? Are you willing to try? Okay.
Probably.
This is it. This is perfect. All right, this is it because my battery is dying. All right, so
it's melted from being near the fire for so long.
That's so funny. Hold on.
Burn through like a whole propane tank or whatever there.
Here we go. So the first spin is going to be the player that you're going to have a take about. And then the second spin is going to be who you're going to which voice you're going to have to use in person or to do your take. But
I don't even know how these guys talk. I thought you were going to give me
not these guys, not these guys, not these guys.
Okay, good. I was like, I got to imitate.
No, wait, not Sam Darnold again.
We're in Sam Darnold. I'm closing. We're not doing any more Sam Darnold talk. I know. I'll tell you, no more Sam Darnold.
Okay, I thought you were going to make me do a Kyle Pitts impression. I was like,
no. All right, so you give your take about Zamir White, but you're going to do it in one of these voices. Christopher Walken, Donald Trump, Robert De Niro, Bill Belichick, Rocky Balboa, or your mom.
Okay. Give me Christopher Walken.
Wait, no. If you want to do Christopher Walken,
I don't
will
care.
love
I
it.
don't think I can do him well, but I think I can do him. Well, maybe not better than some of them, but I don't think I can do. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. It's
Hold
a
on, let's do what-
lose-lose. It's a lose-lose for me. On
We'll
this
do one
I
more
feel like.
spin because we did have someone
like-
do their mom.
Oh,
See, look at it. It's
Christopher
meant to
Walken.
be. It's meant to be. So do Christopher
All
Walken
right.
and your take on Zamir Wall. What?
All right, good, because I just watched Severance with Christopher Walken, so this gives me a little bit of a it's kind of fresh in my head. So all right, Zamir White. I don't even have a take on Zamir
Yeah,
White.
you gotta have a take on.
Okay,
Zamir White.
yeah, it might not be a good take, or it's not gonna be a good impression either. So we'll combine two bad things together. All right. This is so bad. I never even practiced this. So the thing is that the guy in Zamir White is on the Las Vegas Raiders, and so I think he's, there's nobody behind him, so he's just him out there. And the thing about it, Zamir White, is I think he's going to be fine. He'll score some touchdowns, but he's on a bad team, and I think that, and that's probably like the best I can do. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know if the tone was good. He's got a very distinct talk, but all right.
That was a
if
perfect
nothing
way
else,
to
I gave
end.
you guys great effort at 11 p.m. at night, right?
That
On a
you
school
can't
night.
get any better than that. We are at 2 hours and 45 minutes though, so we are gonna say goodnight. You are coming on for a whole episode. You know that soon. Once we get in the episode, we'd love to have you back and come on for a whole episode and mess around with us. But this night has to end before I end up in this fire and Ryan ends up falling asleep. Thank you
guys are
for
the best.
joining us. Have
Yeah.
a good night, and we'll catch up soon. All right.
All right, sounds good. Nice meeting you, Ryan. See you guys.
Yeah, same. Thank you. That was a legitimately great Christopher Walken impression. Like that
It was really good. I mean, maybe it's 2:45 hour or 2 hours and 45 minutes in the show and we think anything's good, but no, it was good. He did good. That was great. He tried it. Man, one of my favorite episodes ever. This was a lot of fun. It is really late, and my neighbors probably hate me because I haven't stopped screaming in 3 hours. So I'm gonna go inside. We're gonna say goodnight. One more day tomorrow. Some football. You doing anything tomorrow? I mean, we probably could talk about this off the podcast, but we're gonna go out for some beers if you want to join.
Yeah, I might be able to.
Me, Kyle Turner, and Jesse. You know Jesse.
Cool.
Don't. So yeah, if you feel like it, but go football. And Allie will be back next Wednesday. The whole world's coming back together. So we'll have the whole crew. We'll have some dumb draft. We'll have more drunk people. It's going to be the best. Thanks so much for joining us. We really had a blast tonight. Have a great night. Thanks.